Yo, 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 we are back at it again. I am your host. I guess I'm a host right now. I am your host for today, Cassius Israel, aka Kazak bin Yehuda. First of all, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Holy One of Israel, who is Jesus. Once again, I am Cassius Israel. I have my team here. Yo, this is a beautiful thing, y'all. Y'all know this is beautiful, right? We finna get it in today. But first of all, I represent the Walls of Jericho, Biblical and Historical Studies, Hebrews in the Hood Entertainment. I have my people here, my boy Big Homie Yerp in the building.
I'll praise the Most High.
Smooth, super smooth. Man, I got one of my brothers right here, man. My brother Mikael, man. What's going on? Talk to the people, man.
Just keeping the faith. Y'all keep the faith. Stay in the script. And that's what it's all about.
Yes,
Live your
sir.
holy life, man. That's it.
All right, we have one of the sisters on the Brews in the Hood banner. Go ahead, Miss. Tell them your name.
Hi guys, my name is Jasmine Israel.
She's so reserved.
Yo.
All right, we got Wise Soul in the building. What's going on?
What's the word, man? All glory to Abba, man. You feel me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we are back once again. We are back at it again, and we got a good one for y'all. This is kind of land backing off of the stuff that we've already been doing, but this is going to be a little different, right? Reason why that is we need to understand how to, first of all, the topic we're going over today is how to have healthy arguments. How to have healthy arguments, right? So what we're going to do though is that we're going to make sure we understand what an argument really is. I'm gonna go around. What y'all think? What is an argument?
A disagreement.
Okay.
A violent disagreement.
A violent, that's the typical understanding. Go ahead.
When two people got two viewpoints and they're trying to come together to come with a conclusion.
Right. So that's what we need to be doing, right? Anybody else? Just want it in your own words, real quick.
Yeah, opposing viewpoints.
All right, opposing viewpoints, right? What about you, my brother?
Right. Same thing.
All right, so opposing viewpoints, that's what we want to understand, right? And first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to deal with this as far as us being evangelists and us being people that's going out here preaching this word of God. One thing we have to do, though, is we got to make it make sense, right? And I think the art of that has been lost for a long time now, right? So for instance, let's just say you're running into an atheist, right? This atheist does not believe. Matter of fact, what he's really doing, y'all, is that this atheist, what he's saying is that your claim that God exists is false. So they're not really coming with evidence to prove God is false. They're just going to try to disprove your claim that God is false, right? But one thing that we can't do is that we can't act like we don't have to have strong reasoning skills, strong critical thinking skills. You see what I'm saying? So what we have to do is that we have to establish something, right? God wrote in this book how to determine he is God, or at least he put a standard up, right? So what we want to do is that we want to be able to show people that, but we want to be able to show people that in a healthy manner, right? Once again, this is land backing off the fact that we started this off with love manifested in the fruits of the spirit, right? So you got to have fruits of the spirit. You got to have peace. You got to have joy. You got to have long suffering. You got to have patience, things of that nature, right? Then we got into how to have effective communication skills, right? So you can be understood. The person understands where you're coming from, and then y'all can come to some type of, reconciliation, right? However, with this one, right, it's based on having communication skills, but do you have good reasoning skills with your communication skills, right? And so that's what we want to understand today, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to first deal with the fact that it does make sense that God exists, right? It really does make sense that God exists. Why is that? First of all, he's telling you that he's I am. That really means I exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am he. I am the one that exists, right? In all eternity. I am here in the present. I am here in the past, and I'm also here in the future. I can see it all, right? So that's what we're going to get into today, brothers and sisters, right? And while we're doing this, I want you guys to understand that you got to deal with some accountability when it comes to good reasoning, right? Because if you don't have good reasoning skills, how can you ever say you have a sound argument? How can you ever be justified when it comes to stuff you're offended by, stuff that you feel, things of that nature, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to establish, what does God want you to do before he starts saying that he's God, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to start this. We're going to get a few scriptures in here. We're going to start this at Isaiah, the 1st chapter. Isaiah, the 1st chapter. Isaiah, the 1st chapter, and we are going to start at verse 16. Isaiah, the 1st chapter, and we're going to start at verse 16. So before I even get to proving who I am, I'm going to tell you what I want first, right? All right, go ahead, my brother.
Wash you, make you clean, put away the evil from your doings, from before mine eyes.
Go ahead.
Cease to do evil.
All right, so first and foremost, he's telling you to wash you, make you clean, right? What are you washing yourself of? What are you making yourself clean of? You're making yourself clean of the evil of your doings, right? So first and foremost, let's talk about from an agnostic point of view, right? Agnostic does not claim that God, the point that God exists is false. Agnostic claims he just doesn't know God exists or not, right? So what he's going to end up saying, well, what do you mean? What is evil, right? How am I going to cease to do evil? You got to explain to me what evil is first, right? And so we're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to get to a few examples of that in a minute. Go ahead. Verse 17.
Learn to do well.
All right, so you got to learn to do well, right? We don't automatically start off knowing what to do. That's right. But you got to learn to do well, right? What are some of the things you got to learn? Go ahead.
Seek judgment.
You got to seek judgment, right? So you got to be able to give evaluations, right? You got to seek judgment, right? And if you don't have good reasoning skills, how are you going to have a good judgment? Because that's your conclusion, right? Go ahead.
Relieve the oppressed.
All right, so you got to relieve the oppressed. So if people are oppressed, you want to relieve them some type of way, right? Go ahead.
Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow.
All right, so he wants you to do these things. These are some judging the fatherless, or being there for the fatherless and the widows. That's one of the main things God always really talks about, right? These things are not bad principles. So even if I want to sit here and say God doesn't exist, what am I really losing?
Mm.
What am I losing if he does exist and all he's telling me is to do this? What is so bad about seeking judgment, relieving the oppressed, judging the fatherless, and pleading for the widow, right? So now what is he instructing us to do, right? Go ahead.
Come now and let us reason together.
Right, so we want to reason together. He's telling you that for a reason, right? He's telling you that because you can't just be out here speaking facts from emotions, right? And we're going to get into all that. What does it look like when you're starting to use your emotions and not make sense? We're going to get into that as well, right? So he said, come now and let us reason together. Go ahead.
Said the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow.
Go ahead.
Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool.
All right, so even though you messed up, you all out here messed up, right? You ain't right in the head, right? However, if you're willing to wash yourself and clean yourself of the evil of your doings, right? If you're willing to learn to do well, to seek judgment, to relieve the oppressed, right? To judge the fatherless and the widow, and if you're willing to come together to reason, though you messed up, right? Verse 19, go ahead.
If ye be willing and obedient.
Right, so you got to be willing and obedient, but here goes. If you're reasoning together, that means if I'm asking you to do something, I'm going to provide something as proof that I exist, at least, right? And what is that? Go ahead.
If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land.
Right, so let's get the context here. This is talking about Judah, right? So he's saying, let us reason together, because Judah went off. Judah is starting to worship all these other gods. And what's crazy is if you believe in these other gods, they have to still fit the same criteria that this God that you're worshiping now, or supposed to be worshiping, is giving you, right? So we're going to see what that is. But he said, after all of this, if you be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land, right? So people be like, well, we ain't eating the good of the land now. Gotta read some more of the book. He tells you when that time is going to come, right? I want
That's
to throw
right.
that out there.
Uh-huh.
All right, verse 20, go ahead.
But if ye refuse and rebel,
So that's the flip side, right? So we can reason together, but only if you're willing and obedient, I can work with you. But if you refuse and rebel, go ahead.
ye shall be devoured with the sword.
Uh-huh.
For the mouth of the Lord has spoken.
That means that in life, brothers and sisters, if this is actually true, you should see it. That's the point of all this, right? So now the person that you're reasoning with has to be able to see your point. And if they're not willing to see your point, they're living in a fallacy, right? We're going to get to all of that.
They refusing and rebelling.
They refusing and rebelling, right? We're going to get into all of that. All right, let's go to Isaiah, the 41st chapter. 41st chapter. Now we got to set a criteria here. How do we know he is God? How do we know he is God? Because people are asked these things. How do you know God is God? What faith is really the real faith? How do you know? How can you tell which one of these religions, quote unquote, is the real religion, right?
Right.
So let's see if we can get a criteria, because this God is saying this. So if your God can do the same thing, now we gotta do an evaluation on that God. But if no other God can do what this God is doing, then we got to say this is the truth, right? All right, verse 21, Isaiah 41 and verse 21. Whenever you get there, my brother, go ahead.
Produce your cause,
Uh-huh.
said the Lord.
Go ahead.
Bring forth your strong reason.
All right, so now he's saying not only to reason together, he's saying bring forth your strong reason. So now it's
Facts.
going to get even stronger and stronger. Argument should get stronger. Your argument about God existing, once again, faith, in order for you to showcase your faith and please God, you got to believe that he is. First, you got to believe he exists and that he's a rewarder of those who
That
diligently
diligently
seek
seek
him.
Mhm.
So that's the two things, right? First, I got to see if he exists. Does it make sense that God, the God of this Bible, exists and he is the God of all the gods, right? Go ahead.
Produce your cause, said the Lord.
Uh-huh.
Bring forth your strong reason,
Go ahead.
said the King of Jacob.
All right, so he's telling everybody to come and bring forth your strong reasoning. Go ahead.
Let them bring them forth,
Right, so bring forth your strong reasoning, right? Go ahead.
and show us what shall happen.
So let's go see what's going to happen, right, in the present, right? We're going to see what's going to happen in the present time, right? Go ahead.
Let them show the former things.
Let's see what's happening in the past. Let's look at this history. Let's see if you can create a track record of something in the past, right? Of showing what happened in the past, right? Go ahead.
what they be,
All right, you got to describe what happened, right? What they be. Go ahead.
that we may consider them,
Uh-huh.
and know that the latter of them.
Right. So even though I got the former things, eventually that time is going to pass. So then I'm going to know the latter end. I got to make a track record of what's going on in reality, right? Go ahead.
Or declare us things for to come.
All right, so we talking about prophecy. So not only am I going to show you things that's why I am, y'all. And he's declaring this, right? Not only am I going to show you things in the present, I'm going to show you things in the past. And I'm also show you things in the future, but that's just in this life. Just in this life, first and foremost, right? Then what does he say? Go ahead.
Show us the things that are to come hereafter.
And then show things that are going to come here after. So you got to show the present, you got to show the past, and you got to show the future in life, and then the life hereafter.
Mm.
That's how he's saying that he is God, right?
Mhm.
So if another God can't do this,
Worthless.
it's worthless. There is no argument, right? So now we are critically thinking here, right? Instead of just going to people and God exists. My mama said God exists, so God exists, right? We're going to see what that is as well. Go ahead, verse 23.
Show the things that are to come hereafter,
All right, go ahead.
that we may know that ye are God.
Right, so all of this is confirming that if you do this, then we got to at least evaluate that ye are gods, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, do good and do evil,
Uh-huh.
that we may be dismayed and behold it together.
Right, so we got to make an assessment here to see if this is God, because we are reasoning together, right? But let's see what he says, verse 24.
Behold, ye are nothing.
You ain't nothing,
Mhm.
right? What else ain't nothing? Go ahead.
and your work of naught.
Right. So all the reasonings that you have and all the sources that you have and all the information that you have, it's nothing compared to what I got. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Go ahead.
An abomination is he that chooseth you.
Right. And it's so much of nothing that if anybody chooses to listen to somebody saying that, that's a man, a human being, it's an abomination. That's how serious this is, right? So he has set the standard of how he is God. But who are supposed to be the witnesses, right? Let's go see that. Isaiah, the 43rd chapter. Isaiah, the 43rd chapter. Isaiah 43, and we're going to start at verse 8. Isaiah 43, and we are going to start at verse 8. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears.
Right, so bring them. Bring the people that know they can see this, but they ain't trying to see it. Bring the people that know they can hear this, and it makes sense. It's sound, but they don't want to hear it, right? Go ahead.
Let all the nations be gathered together.
Also, it's getting real serious. I'm so sure of this. Let all the nations come together and do an assessment, right? Let all the nations come together and reason together and say that I am not God. Go ahead.
Who among them can declare this?
Go ahead.
And show us the former thing.
Right. So who can declare this? In the previous chapter, we didn't read this. He says none have declared this. So now you got to go out there and actually find a source of some God actually declaring these things, because this guy said none have. So we got to realize who we really dealing with, right? Go ahead.
Let them bring forth their witnesses.
All right, so you need witnesses, right? Just like you need witnesses in a court of law. You need witnesses for this, brothers and sisters. You aren't going to be judges, right? We are going to be priests. The priests are the lawyers. We got to look at stuff like that, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
That they may be justified, or let them hear and say, it is true.
So either come with your sources that show your God, or listen to what I'm saying and say it's truth. That's simple, right? That's real simple. So if anybody cannot do that, you cannot prove that you are God. Now you got to come and say that this is fraudulent. This is fraudulent, right?
So God said, I am God. I'm here. I'm the beginning. I'm the end. Now y'all gather y'all witnesses to disprove
what I'm saying.
Right. So you got to debate that cause.
You got to debate your cause. You got to produce your cause, right? All right, let's continue. Let's go to 2 Timothy.
Do we do verse 10?
Oh, my bad. I'm getting ahead of myself. Verse 10. All right, no, we definitely got to read verse 10.
Yeah,
Right. That's
verse. All right, so now, thank you, my sister. All right, so now, after all this is said, who are his witnesses? So he's saying to bring your witnesses, but who are the witnesses of God, of the God of Israel? Go ahead.
Ye are my witnesses, said the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen.
Talking about Israel, right?
That ye may know and believe and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed.
Go ahead.
Neither shall there be after me.
All right, so ye are my witnesses. Ye are the source. You are the source that I am God, which he's about to say, right? So he said, ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. So at this point in time, you got enough information. It makes sense. And you understand that he is God, right? And then he said, and understand that I am he. Before me, there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me, right? Now he's saying that with the false gods. People be trying to say, well, that's the Father. And so Jesus ain't nowhere in the picture. Now that is Jesus talking, but he's talking about the false gods that Judah is worshiping over him. We got to understand that, right? Verse 11, go ahead.
11, I, even I, am the Lord. And beside me, there is no Savior.
Right, so now it's about he's saving you, right? And he's declaring that he is saving you, right? What do you need to be saved from? Yourself. You need to be saved from yourself. You need to be saved if you are doing what you're supposed to do for him. You are being saved from your enemies as well. So if I can see all these results, man, that's got to be God in the picture, right? Verse 12, go ahead.
I have declared and have saved.
Go ahead.
And I have showed when there was no strange God among
Right.
you.
So when there was no strange, even you being your own strange God, because you worshiping yourself. Right. That's what all that humanism and all this other stuff
Yeah.
is going on. Right. So now everything, the humans did everything. We are the gods now. Right. But then you can't do what he is establishing you should do if you're God, right? So he said, I've declared and I have saved. I have showed when there was no strange God among you. Go ahead.
Therefore, ye are my witnesses, said the Lord,
Go ahead.
that I am God.
You are my witnesses that I am God, right? That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's real heavy, right? All right, so we got to understand that even the apostles was telling us to do this. You got to recognize that even though we've read this over and over again, you now got to recognize with these other precepts that they were always telling you this. They were always telling you how to deal with proving God is and that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him.
Yes, sir.
Right? All right, let's go to 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter. 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter. Right? So even though he's establishing that he is God, he's not grievous, right?
Mhm.
All right, 2 Timothy 4 and verse 1. Verse 2, I'm sorry. 2 Timothy 4 and verse 2. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
Preach the word.
Uh-huh.
Be instant in season.
Go ahead.
Out of season.
All right, so you got to be able to preach the word when you don't feel like it, when you do feel like it, when you're comfortable, and when you're uncomfortable, right? That's what that means. Go ahead.
Reprove,
Uh-huh.
rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine.
So first of all, you got to be patient and long suffering with people because once again, we're going to see these people are opposing themselves, right? So you got to come with the fruits of the spirit and strong reasoning. If you don't have that, then you're wondering why people then ran off offended and you didn't lost the soul because you didn't have these two things, right? All right, verse 3, go ahead.
For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine.
And you got to understand that they will not endure sound doctrine. This is the time for that. This is really the time for that. Why? Because more information is coming out. So it's getting the argument that we have that God of Israel is God is getting more and more solid, right? Getting more and more for certain, right? Go ahead.
For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine.
Go ahead.
But after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears.
So they know that it's sound, but they're going to look for teachers to tell them what they want to hear, right? But they know that it's sound, right? Verse 4, go ahead.
Verse 4, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables.
So they're going to turn their ears from the truth, what's sound, but then they're going to turn unto fables, right? Verse 5, go ahead.
But watch thou in all things.
Go ahead.
Endure afflictions.
Go ahead.
Do the working of an evangelist.
Go ahead.
Make full proof of thy ministry.
So they've been telling us to do this, right? You got to have evidence for your faith.
Mm-hmm.
There is no faith without evidence. There is no sound faith without evidence to prove it, right?
There ain't no evidence without witnesses.
Right. And they ain't no evidence without witnesses. So we got to understand that out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, credible witnesses, you can't get
not your friend, not your homie.
Credible witnesses. So out of the mouth of 2 or 3 credible witnesses is a matter established, right?
Right.
All right. So now let's go to the last place. 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter. 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter. It is hot in this point. 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, and verse 1. 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, and verse 1. Whenever you get there, my brother, you can go ahead and read.
Thou, therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus.
And one of the ways you do that, you got to have good reasoning, man. You have to have good reasoning, right? Go ahead.
And the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses.
So you see, this is repeating, right? They're not saying the things that you heard from me, just believe it. I got many witnesses that it makes sense that if you heard it, you should believe it, right? Go ahead.
The same commit thou to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also.
All right, so when you hear these things, then you want to go into other faithful men so y'all can teach other people, right? Skip down to verse 15. How are we going to do this? How are we going to have sound reasoning and judgment? Right? How are we going to do this? Verse 15. Go ahead.
Study to show thyself approved unto God.
So you can't bring your concentration of studying on this book once a week. You got to study to show thyself approved. That means if I can't go and prove that God is God based on his criteria, I ain't studying enough.
Absolutely.
I'm not studying enough, right? Why is that? Go ahead.
A workman that needed not to be ashamed,
Uh-huh.
rightly dividing the word of truth.
So you got to rightfully divide the word of truth. In order for you to do that, you got to study. You have to study, right? And if you don't study, what is going to happen? Go ahead.
But shun profane and vain babbling.
You're just going to be babbling for nothing, right? And it's going to be profane, right? Because eventually you're going to start going at it with each other, insulting each other, and having filthy communication, right? Go ahead.
For they will increase unto more ungodliness.
And that's what I just said. That's the more ungodliness, right? And we're not going to get nowhere. Nobody's going to come to a medium. Nobody's going to come to a sound argument. We're just not going to get nowhere, right? Go ahead. Skip down to verse 22 and go ahead.
22. Flee also youthful lust, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace, with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart.
All right, so say, Vince, is you got somebody and you talking to them and they're not trying to hear this, that, and third. Now you got your ego going. I'm finna slice them. Man, no, don't do that, right? You don't want to sit here and do that. That's youthful love. That's vainglory. You don't want to do that, right? So you got to follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace with them that are called on the Lord out of a pure heart. Remember, with faith, though, you got evidence. So you got enough evidence for people to believe. So now it's how you come to them, right? Verse 23, go ahead.
But foolish and unlearned questions avoid, knowing that they do gender strife.
Right, so you know when somebody's asking you a question and they don't really want to hear what you're talking about, they trying to tempt you. They trying to trip you up, right? Avoid them questions, them foolish, right? And they unlearned. Go ahead.
And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men.
Go ahead.
Apt to teach, patient.
All right, so you have to do this to be able to teach effectively, right? And the servant of the Lord must not strive, right? So you got to avoid the foolishness, right? Verse 25, go ahead.
And meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves.
So you got to be meek when you instruct those that oppose themselves. They're opposing themselves. They don't even realize they're doing it, right?
Right.
Because they just want to hold on to that desire that they have. But then once again, maybe they don't want to hold on to that all their life, right? So we got to look at that, right? Go ahead.
If God peradventure will give them repentance to acknowledge of the truth.
And you don't know what soul out here has that in them, right? Because God can give them the acknowledgement to receive the truth. But then you go in there and you insult them, and you doing all this other stuff with this filter communication. You ain't got the fruits of the spirit. You didn't offend them. Now you're a stumbling block. Right? Go ahead.
And they that may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil.
Go ahead.
Who are taken captive by him at his will.
And so we have to realize that is that the devil got these people captive by his will. And they're opposing themselves. And some of these people, they're going to wake up, but you can't come to them gender and strifes. You can't come to them like that, right? So once again, we have love manifested through the fruits of the spirit. We have effective communication, and now we're going into strong reasoning, how to have healthy arguments, whether you're trying to prove God exists or whether I'm trying to mend my relationship with somebody else, right?
Right.
And then with people, when you do have a sound argument, you got to get to the point where you're able to yield to a sound argument. That's the next process. Are you able to humble yourself and yield to a sound argument, right? So we're going to get into this, right? We're going to answer the question of what is a critically thinking argument, or what are critically thinking arguments, right? So I'm going to go around the room. What y'all think? Critically thinking argument.
A critically thinking argument, when you take your time to process your information, the other party's information, and you come up with sound reasoning, sound conclusion.
All right, what about you, my brother?
Yeah, I say it's the same thing. You know, because the scriptures say, you know, a wise man, he hear a matter before he answers. So you got to think about it.
Mhm.
Right.
Because
You
if
got-
you don't, if you operating off of your emotions, it'll go south.
It'll go south real
Yeah,
quick.
it'll go south.
Profit's nothing.
Right. Go ahead, my sister.
My sentiments, exactly.
A woman of short words. That's okay. All right, go ahead, my brother. Jay. Wise soul.
Yeah.
Give us that wisdom.
No, honestly, I mean, that's what linebacking on what Brother Mikael said, and honestly caught me off guard though.
All right, what is a critically thinking argument to you before we even get into this?
Critically thinking? Honestly, I don't know.
All right, that's a good answer, right? Sometimes we don't know. That's what we're here to figure out, right? All right, we got my brother 12 Deuce in the building. He has joined us. Another one of the Brews in the Hood members. Introduce
Peace,
yourself, sir.
Peace, my brothers. 12 Deuce, aka Brother Ben. How y'all doing? Peace, my family. Big homie Yurt. My brother Mikael, ain't seen you in a while, man. I'm like actually happy, like I'm excited to see you right now, right? Sister Jasmine and everything. Brother Jay, how's it going?
All right.
Y'all back in the booth. My wife back there, man. Sister Zipporah back there, and of course. Big homie Franco over there, you know what I'm
Hey
saying?
man, don't be telling people who here, homie. You know what I'm saying? No, but what is a critically thinking argument to you, sir?
I would say that a critically thinking argument is when you hear both sides of each person's argument. Let's just say, like in a court case or something like that. That's a critically thinking argument because both parties, they done sat down, did the research and everything else, and they gotta actually basically listen to each other instead of just when you're on just a regular argument, you just waiting for the next person to finish so you can hurry up and get your point out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you do it in a critically thinking argument, you actually taking in consideration what the other person is saying,
Right.
you know, really thinking on it and like, okay, they might have a point and I could be wrong with my argument. You know what I'm saying? You basically just, you're going back and forth and thinking about each other's what they're saying instead of just waiting to talk. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Y'all see how he answered that? He ready. He ready. A critically thinking argument. He ready, yo. All right, so good. So we're gonna get into this, y'all. And so we're gonna establish some things about a critically thinking argument before we really get into the meat of things, right? So what are critically thinking arguments? Who got it? It don't matter.
Okay.
We're just saying, what is a critically thinking
We're
argument?
gonna read it from this paper.
Oh,
We got scholarship. Remember, we do scholarship at the Walls of Jericho, right? Go ahead.
In critical thinking and logic, argument has a particular meaning.
All right, so in a critically thinking argument or critically thinking and logic, argument has a particular meaning because we got to get the normal typical understanding of what this meaning is exclusively, right? Go ahead.
It refers to a set of statements
Uh-huh.
consisting of one conclusion and one or more premises.
All right, so now a critically thinking argument is a statement. First of all, an argument is a statement that you made. You done made a statement, so somebody is going to rebuttal back to you whether they agree with it or
An
not.
opposing statement.
An opposing statement, yes. All right, and it's consisting of one conclusion or one or more premises. We're going to see what that is. Go ahead.
The conclusion is the statement that the argument is intended to prove.
Go ahead.
The premises are the reasons offered for believing that the conclusion is true.
All right, so I believe this is true, and these are my reasonings, so that is why I think it's true.
So the premise is your so-called facts.
Yeah, your so-called facts, right? Your
Okay.
reasoning, your evidence, right?
Okay.
Right.
Premise equals evidence.
Premise equals evidence, and then the evidence, the reason comes from the evidence, right?
Gotcha.
All right, go ahead.
A critical thinking argument could use a deductive reasoning approach
All right, go ahead.
and an inductive reasoning approach, or both.
All right, so you got to recognize, so in order for you to get sharper on your reasoning skills, you got to know the difference between the two, right? So a critically thinking argument can use a deductive reasoning approach and inductive reasoning approach, or both, right? Let's see what both of these are, right? Go ahead.
Deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning attempts to absolutely guarantee a conclusion's truth through logic.
So what's absolutely true is deductive.
Yes.
What is absolutely true is deductive, right? Or in other words, another word for this is when it's a sound argument.
Mm.
We're gonna get into different terminologies so people can understand your reasoning will start to sharpen because you got to know the difference between certain things.
So
right?
so you got a set of premises and y'all going back and forth and they can't disprove them premises.
Right,
It's a deductive argument.
right. Pretty much is a deductive argument. Or let's get into the next one. Go ahead.
So basically, like a topic.
No, the topic is the conclusion. So the topic is, I believe, say for instance, I believe ice cream is cold. My evidence is because I licked it before. Right. So it's as simple as that, right? So if you're able to think that simply about it, then when you start to get more advanced and adding your evidence, then you'll have better conclusions about things. And then you'll start getting sharper and sharper and sharper. But let's see what the next form of reasoning is. Go ahead.
Would you like me to finish?
Yes.
Okay. If a deductive argument's premises are true,
Uh-huh.
it should be impossible for its conclusion to be false.
All right, so that's what we get into, right? So if a deductive argument's premises are true, notice it says premises, right? We can take this back to the Bible, right? Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses is a matter established. If I got 2 or 3 premises that are true, my conclusion is true, or it should be
Right.
impossible to be false. Should be, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Inductive reasoning.
All right, so we got the deductive reasoning. Remember, the deductive reasoning is absolutely true. Let's see what the inductive reasoning is. Go ahead.
Inductive reasoning attempts to show that the conclusion is probably true.
All right, so now a lot of people, I'm telling you that we're going to get sharper as this goes on, right? So a lot of people have inductive reasoning and they think it's deductive. Then they get mad when people are not trying to hear them out. But you haven't made a sound argument. So if you're saying I offended you and I need to apologize or give you the reason why I did what I did, then you got to come to me with a sound argument. If you're actually saying I committed some type of offense, that is somebody that's communicating. That is somebody that's letting you know, hey, this is how I feel. This is the reason why. And I think it's true that you did this because of such and such and such. Right. So you have to come back and say, well, no, I didn't do it. Or no, I didn't do it because this, that, and the third. Or I did do it. I'm sorry. Right. Then once you know that it's sound, that's when you have the obligation to say, you know what? I'm going to humble myself. I apologize and I'm going to correct myself.
Yep.
That's what you got to do. Right. Continue, my sister.
With each premise making the case for the conclusion stronger or weaker.
Right. So your reasoning for this probable conclusion, right, is either going to get stronger or it's going to get weaker. Right. All right, let's continue. So now, how do we assess a critically thinking argument, right? How do we test this out? How do we examine it, right? How do we reason together, right? Go ahead.
How do I assess a critical thinking argument?
Go ahead.
You can evaluate whether an argument is valid or invalid, sound or unsound, strong or weak.
All right. So now this is when we're getting to the meat of things. You know, an argument can be valid and not sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people are justified by valid arguments that are not sound. Let's get into that. What does that mean? Right? Go ahead.
Validity.
All right. So validity. Go ahead.
If an argument is said to be valid, it means that it is impossible for the conclusion to be false if the premises are true.
All right. So now it just says, remember, a valid argument is just saying that it's impossible to be false. Does that mean it's true though?
Oh.
That's a valid argument. Something it's impossible for this to be false, but that doesn't mean it's true. That's a valid argument. That means that if you act off of that reasoning, you're jumping to conclusions, right? You're being hasty. So you can't do that, right? Keep going, my sister.
If an argument is invalid, it is possible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false.
That's invalid, right? I hear what you're saying, but that's not true. Right. You see what I'm saying? You got your premise, your reasons for believing in what you believe, they're true, but then your conclusion is not. That's invalid, right? So remember, a valid argument, it's impossible for it to be false, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And a invalid argument is that your reasoning can be true, but your conclusion is false, right? But now let's see what a sound argument is. So remember, now the understanding is going to increase. Paul said they will not endure sound doctrine. He didn't say valid. He said sound doctrine. So he saying that the argument is deductive, it's absolutely true. So it's going to be time when they going to know that it's absolutely true and they still not going to do it.
So sort of words, a lot of these teachers out here make it sound good.
And they make it sound good because it's valid. And you don't know the difference between a really sound argument and a valid argument, right? You can't get tripped out by that. Satan is deceiving people with valid arguments.
Wow. That's what he do. He uses the truth. And then he
Adds
hits you
a
with
lot
some-
of-
He gives good reasons, but he's not coming with a true conclusion. So you got to watch out for that, right?
All praise.
All right, soundness. Let's get into that. Go ahead.
Soundness. An argument is sound if it is both valid and contains only true premises.
All right, so a soundness is an argument if that is both valid and contains only true premises, right? So it is impossible for it to be false and it's only true premises. That is a deductive argument. That's sound
Sound.
reasoning,
Sound, yeah.
right? Go ahead.
If either of these conditions isn't met,
Go
then
ahead.
the argument is unsound.
So these conditions have to be met for it to be a sound argument, right? So let's just say, let's deal with some doctrine, right? You hear a new doctrine, right? It sounds good, it sounds reasonable, but the conclusion is false. You got tripped up by a valid argument. Man, this is valid. You're gonna hear people say that. Man, this is valid. This is valid. You got to ask them, is it sound
Right.
though?
You had you had a little bit of inductiveness in that.
Right. It's just strong. You got a little bit of inductiveness in it. Right.
If that's a word. Y'all fact check that one for me.
All right. So now we got to make sure that once again, the point is to have a sound argument, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Go ahead.
Strength.
A
deductively strong argument is both valid and it is reasonable for the person in question to believe the premises are true.
All right, so it's reasonable because it's sound, right? It's sound. But remember, you can have a sound argument, but it's still faith because you were not there to see it. That's what we're living with this Bible. We don't see God. We haven't seen any similitude of God, but he's left enough evidence here and good reasons. It's strong enough. He still has a deductive argument for his case that he is God. He has a deductive argument. We just can't see him. So it's still got to be faith, right? Because faith is the evidence of things not seen. So we have hope in the substance of things that come. But once they come, it's no longer hope and it's no longer faith. It's for certain. So we got to understand that, right? That's how we got to think when we're dealing with the word of God, right? We're not dealing with a fairy tale. We can go out there and tell an atheist, we got evidence. We can go out there and convince an agnostic, we got evidence, right? And we can show them that God, the God of Israel, he is God. And nobody has declared the things he said. And he said nobody did. So if you go out there and search, you're not going to find it.
I searched all over. Couldn't find nobody.
Now you go get your witnesses and your facts
Right.
and your
premises.
your premises, and let's come together and reason.
And let's do an assessment, right?
Let's do an assessment.
And there ain't no reason to argue about somebody that don't exist. Exactly. If he ain't there, we ain't, what is there to talk about?
Right. So we ain't going on. Why are we doing all this? And like we could be out here living life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can be out here living life instead of keeping rules that by a God that really don't exist.
Right. It don't make sense.
Right. When Paul say our faith is in vain. If we don't believe in the resurrection and all that, what are we doing this for?
Right. Like you said, he left too much evidence out here to show that he's him.
Right.
You know
Too
what
much
I'm saying?
evidence.
It's too much evidence.
Now, this is going to make you understand the rich man and Lazarus story, right? Because at the end of that, he said, man, I want to be able to come back, right? and tell my brothers not to come to this place. Hey, if they ain't got Moses and the prophets, they not going to believe even if somebody came and raised someone from the dead. That's how certain it is.
Because it could be sound doctrine and they still not going to hear it.
Exactly.
And how sounded can you be if you come back from the dead?
I'm an eyewitness.
Right. I
It's
am
me.
an eyewitness
I'm
that
an
this
eyewitness.
guy.
Think about it. Somebody actually did that. Jesus himself
Right.
came back from the dead and they still didn't believe.
Right. So it's something that when we go through, we got witnesses, we got the apostles, we got the prophets, we got all these witnesses that testify to this God being the God, right? But then they're saying, hey, believe in the things that you've heard because we got many witnesses.
Right.
They're not saying, man, it's a fairy tale. Man, just believe. Don't even question it. No, God said what? Prove me.
Mhm.
You're right.
Mm.
Prove me, right?
Right.
So all of these things, now you can understand, man, if we go through the rules of critical thinking, now you can understand that God was telling you to do this all along, right? All right, let's go to the next one. Let's keep going. Go ahead.
In a deductively weak argument,
Mhm.
the person considering the premises may have good reason to doubt them.
All right, go ahead.
When an argument is inductively strong,
Uh-huh.
the truth of the premises make the truth of the conclusion probable.
So it's probably, remember, these probably true. It's a valid argument, but that don't mean it's sound, right? Go ahead.
In contrast, in an inductively weak argument,
Uh-huh.
the truth of the premises do not make the truth of the conclusion probable.
So it's not valid, right? Your reasoning ain't even making the conclusion probable. It can't even probably be true. Your reasoning is off, right? But it's still an argument. It's just an inductively weak argument. It's probably true, but it's really weak, but it's probably not true. Most than likely it's not true, though, right? All right, continue. Go ahead.
Counterexamples.
All right, counterexamples. Another word for counterexamples are rebuttals. So I'm giving my rebuttal. I hear an argument, I don't agree, therefore I'm going to give my reasoning for why I don't agree. That's a counterexample. Go ahead.
A counterexample is a consistent story which shows that an argument can have true premises but a false conclusion,
Go ahead.
rendering it invalid.
Right. So now that's what I'm gonna keep picking at you because I see fallacies in your argument, and now I'm finna make it invalid with my rebuttals and with my counter arguments. My counter examples, right? So I'm going to prove that your argument is invalid. Go ahead.
A valid argument is not necessarily true, and a weak argument is not necessarily false.
So now we got to keep reasoning together until we get to a deductive conclusion, right?
Yes.
And that sounds like a lot, but if you really love somebody, you gonna do that. You really gonna do that, right? Go ahead.
All of these fundamentals can be applied both in the simple practice arguments and then to more complex problems of the type you might encounter in real life.
All right, so now we got to understand that you're taking this with you in life. You have to know how to have good reasoning skills. So the source for that is Critical Thinking Arguments for Beginners, criticalthinkingsecrets.com, right? All right, now let's see what's the reverse of a critical thinking argument, right? Go ahead.
10 terms on fallacies for an argument.
So if an argument is invalid, it's fallacious.
Fallacious.
Right? It's a fallacy, right? Go ahead.
What is a logical fallacy?
All right, so what is a logical fallacy? What makes an argument invalid or fallacious? Go ahead.
A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning that occurs when invalid arguments or irrelevant points are introduced without any evidence to support them.
Right, so that's a fallacy, right? So I'm going to do all this other stuff as my evidence to support my conclusion, but it's really not evidence. It's a fallacy, right? It's false. That's what a fallacy is. It means it's false. Fallacy means your conclusion is false, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
People often resort to logical fallacies when their goal is to persuade others.
Oh, that sounds like pride.
Yep.
That sounds like pride to me, right? You don't care about the sound argument. I just want to persuade somebody that I'm right, even if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You can't have that in your spirit, right? These are spirits. So when you test in people's spirits, this is what you're going to look for, right? You're going to look for what is going on in their behavior, right? That's how you test the spirits, right? Go ahead.
Because fallacies appear to be correct, even though they are not,
Uh-huh.
people can be tricked into accepting them.
Right. So people are tricked because they sound valid, even though it might not even be enough evidence, but it sounds good. Right. But it's not sound. I see how I did that.
For sure.
Right. So now we got to understand what these terms are, right? And we're about to get into that. Go ahead.
Most logical fallacies involve arguments.
Uh-huh.
In other words, one or more statements, called the premise,
Uh-huh.
and a conclusion.
Go ahead.
The premise is offered in support of the claim being made, which is the conclusion.
So the reason I believe and this is true, right? Go ahead.
In other words, a logical fallacy violates the principles of critical thinking because the premises do not sufficiently support the conclusion,
Mhm.
while a factual error involves being wrong about the facts.
All right. So now let's get into what that looks like. So the first fallacy, go ahead.
Ad hominem. Is that how you pronounce
Yes,
it?
ma'am, it is.
Ad hominem.
So an ad hominem fallacy, go ahead.
is a logical fallacy that involves a personal attack.
So an insult. So I start using insults as my evidence for my conclusion. Go ahead.
An argument based on the perceived failings of an adversary rather than on the merits of the case.
All right, so we got an argument, right? We think that cheeseburgers are really good, right? But I'm gonna sit here and be like, man, your shoes dirty, man.
Had nothing to do with cheese.
Nothing to do with the price of tea in China.
Cheeseburgers ain't good. His shoes dirty. How you know? How he know cheeseburgers is good? Dirty shoe wearing. You know what I'm saying? How he know that cheeseburgers is good? Right? go ahead.
In short, it's when your rebuttal to an opponent's position is an irrelevant attack on the opponent personally rather than the subject at hand.
Right. So if you know you do this, right, you get into heated arguments, right? The fights. Now it's heated argument. Now nobody is even trying to actually come to a sound conclusion.
Right.
You just want to persuade them that you're right. So I'm gonna throw a ad hominem at you.
Right.
Maybe if I insult you enough, you know what? You're right. I'm just gonna be quiet. People do that though.
But it's I think that's why in the court of law,
Mhm.
like the opposing attorney would say, objection, that has nothing to
Right.
do, because they'll try to discredit the witness.
Mhm.
If I know you slapped your mom last week, how can you get on the stand and testify for someone? Not, like the jury will be like,
That's
He
a
slapped his-
that's a valid argument. See that
Exactly.
you gotta look at that. Wait a minute, he slapped his mama. This man stole a candy bar from the store. Wait a minute, he slapped his mama last week. That man guilty.
He had to steal that
Exactly.
candy bar.
he had to steal.
Precisely.
He had to steal that candy
Only
bar.
people who slap mama steal candy bars.
Right. So does that sound reasonable?
no,
No. Right. So now what I want y'all to do is when we go through this, track how many of these, and you can actually put it in the comment section, track how many of these you've done with people.
Mhm.
Right. And be real with yourself, because now, dang, I've been doing this. I'm not trying to do this, or you are trying to do this. So I'm going to do this for the people. If you want to be wicked, I'm going to show you how to use fallacies. If you want to be wicked. But if you want to be righteous, I'm going to show you how to avoid fallacies
identify them
and
avoid them.
identify them. Oh, identify, right? So you got to identify these fallacies, right? Go ahead.
To discredit the position by discrediting its supporters.
Right. So remember my audience. I have an audience, right? So me and another person going back and forth, I'm trying to persuade the audience. So what do? I throw out insults. They will be persuaded that I have a sound argument, right?
Mhm.
But that's not necessarily the case, right? All right, go ahead.
It translates as against the man.
So ad hominem is a Latin word that translates as against the man, right? So you're coming against the man, and that is your evidence. I'm just coming against you.
Notice
Instead of coming
against the
against
man.
argument.
Right.
Exactly. Against the man and not against the argument.
Right. I'm coming against you, right? I'm coming
Yeah.
against you. The
It's like psychological.
right, all of it is it's psychology as well, right? All right. Next one, go ahead.
Would you like me to finish that?
Yes, I would.
Using an ad hominem fallacy pulls the public's attention off of the real issue and serves only as a distraction.
Right.
Yes, it
So
does.
you gotta avoid the insults, right? We're listening to this and we're learning. Man, when you having an argument, just leave the insults out.
Has
Right.
nothing to do with nothing.
It has nothing to do with nothing,
If
right?
you mature,
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
mature.
facts.
So this is going with maturity. Once again, if you notice yourself doing this, you got to take a check on yourself, right?
Consider thy ways.
Consider
That's
your
why-
ways.
That's why this is good for us, because people don't notice this stuff.
Right.
They
So
don't know that they're actually doing it until they're actually doing it.
Yeah.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
because it's good when you associate a word with action.
Yes, you're able to. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So we want to be able to do that for the people, right? All right, number 2, go ahead.
A straw man,
Mm-hmm.
also known as straw man.
Go ahead.
Argument is one in which the person sets up and then attacks a position that is not actually being debated.
All right. So when it comes to a straw man is an obvious distraction, right?
Mhm.
I always use this for my students, right? I believe that the sky is blue. I'm arguing back and forth with somebody if the sky is blue. Next thing you know, the argument turns into the grass is green. That's not even the subject we talk about. So when you change the subject, that is a straw man. When you change the subject and it's obvious, man, you know we ain't even talking about that. We talking about the sky being blue. Now we talking about the grass is green. And then what's crazy is this is how people win arguments. They will do a straw man. Now we're talking about the grass being green. Oh, I got great evidence that the grass is green. So I'm making a sound argument about the grass being green, but that ain't even the topic no more. So guess
Mhm.
what? It's a sound argument without the topic being the same
The
thing anymore.
conclusion changed. Yeah.
So now we can't have the same conclusion because the topic has changed.
Right.
And you purposely change the topic so that you can persuade the other person or whoever is looking at you. It's the audience, right?
I said that's deflection.
That's deflection, right? That's deeper than deflection. That's deeper than deflection, right? We're gonna see that there are levels to deflection, is what I'm saying, right? Keep going, my sister.
The term straw man refers to a straw-filled scarecrow,
Uh-huh.
a literal dummy that is easily attacked and destroyed.
Don't be no dummy. Don't be no dummy. Somebody
Mom ain't raised no fool.
don't be no dummy, right? Somebody coming to you, and then now you're not even focused. Next thing you know, you agree with their argument, but dang, wasn't we talking about the sky was blue?
Mhm.
Man, I agree with you. The grass is green, but we ain't even talking about that no more.
That's
Right.
why when you're in one of them arguments, you always got to stay on track. You got to stay focused because
Yeah,
somebody can easily just say 2 words and then y'all on a whole
whole
Totally
different
different
subject.
Topic.
and like, wait, hold on, I didn't get my point across with the first subject. Hold on now.
Right. Yeah.
And you will find that when you out evangelizing or dealing with people with the word,
Mhm.
and you could be talking about, all right, man, we don't supposed to be celebrating Christmas. And they going on to something completely different, like, well, you need to be in your prayer closet and this and that. And I'm like, well, hold on. Well, what about Christmas? Why you got the tree up in your house? You know,
Mhm.
that's where we started in.
Mhm.
And I've been in situations like that where people done really tried to turn the corner. I'm like, hold on, let's bring it right back to the front. Let me answer this first question first, or
Mhm.
you answer this first question first, then we could go on to the next thing. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
yeah. That's so you gotta be on point. You gotta be focused,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
All right.
Or you could just be having a simple conversation or disagreement with somebody, and they could throw a red herring in the mix. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
he getting
Try to-
ahead. He
Yeah.
getting ahead.
Try to- yeah. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
All right, so continue, my sister. So a literal dummy that is easily attacked and destroyed, right? Go ahead.
As opposed to a logical, critically thinking human opponent.
All right, so you got to be a logical, critical thinking person, right? Otherwise, you're going to get hit with false statements and people going to change the subjects. People going to be throwing insults at you. People going to be making the subject, obviously changing the subject, right? But like I said, there are levels to changing the subject and deflecting, right? Let's see the next one. Go ahead.
A red herring
Uh-huh.
is a
Diversionary, yeah.
A red herring is a diversionary tactic that is used to distract one away from the actual issue being debated.
Uh-huh.
And the straw man is one method of doing this.
All right, so once again, the straw man is the obvious distraction, but the red herring is real subtle, right? That's the difference between the two. And man, I'm telling y'all, Satan is the master at the red herring,
Mhm.
right? So let's just say we're taking the same example. The sky is blue, right? So we're still talking about the sky, but it went from us talking about the color to, the sky just really makes me feel all good and this, that, and the third, and what the bed. Well, why does it make you feel good, brother? Because such and such and such. You know what that sound? I agree with that. Well, what happened to the color?
Right.
That's a red herring because once again, we're still staying. It sounds like you're staying on topic because we're still talking about the sky, but the actual topic has changed, but it's subtly changed.
Yeah, you like kind of diverted just a little bit.
Just a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And people who are trying to win arguments and just persuade and not come up with sound arguments, they are masters at the red herring. And you got to watch out for that, right? Because people will get you, right?
Yep.
All right, go ahead, my sister.
The appeal to ignorance
All right, so you appealing to ignorance. What does that mean?
is a fallacy based on the assumption that a statement must be true if it cannot be proven false,
Uh-huh.
or false if it cannot be proven true.
Man, how can God exist and you ain't got no proof that God exists? Is that a sound argument though?
Mm-mm.
No, right? Because we seen what God said. You ain't got no proof. No,
I guess proof.
we got some evidence
Where
that
your
God
proof?
exists.
I ain't got no proof.
You say what?
Where your proof that I ain't got no proof?
Right. That's what you ask her. Where's your proof that I ain't got no proof? So you got to just so you can start playing with people because I guarantee you say that to somebody, they'll be thrown off. Man, you ain't got no proof. Well, you ain't got no proof. They ain't got no proof. Dang, that sound good. But no, that's not necessarily the case, right? So just because there's absence of evidence does not mean the conclusion is false. Right? That just means you don't have the evidence. The evidence can show up though. Right? Go ahead.
A genetic fallacy
Oh, so the genetic fallacy. This is something like the ad hominem, but we're going to see the difference. Go ahead.
is a fallacy of relevance, which often occurs when one argues that because a certain idea has some negative consequences in the present,
Go ahead.
or someone whom you're referencing as evidence
Mm-hmm.
has committed a foul act.
Go ahead.
Your premise and conclusion must be wrong.
All right, so that's going back to, all right, I'm going to keep using the sky is blue, right? So I believe the sky is blue. 12 Dudes got a book about the sky being blue. He got good evidence that the sky is blue, but he slapped his mama yesterday, right? So now, how can I believe the sky is blue when this man slapped his mama yesterday? I don't want to hear it.
Even though he got all the proof in the world.
And he got facts galore. So you don't want to look at the evidence because he slapped his mama, right? That's not making him a
credible witness.
no, not a credible. That's not making you a, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean
still
you're
a
not.
credible
You're
witness.
not
You're
credible.
right.
Your
Making him
actions
an incredible witness.
doesn't discredit your
not.
facts.
Right. It
Right.
doesn't discredit your evidence, right? So that's a fallacy. That's what you call a genetic fallacy, right? Go ahead.
Circular reasoning.
All right, circular reasoning. Go ahead.
Circular reasoning occurs when someone makes an argument in which both the premises and the conclusion must rely on the truthfulness of the other.
So I tell an atheist, God exists because God exists.
How you think you got here?
That's circular reasoning.
That's circular reason. Or if I sit here and say, man, I gotta do what I gotta do. Why? Because I gotta do
what
it.
I gotta
You
do.
know what I'm saying? Because I gotta do what I gotta do. The sky is blue. Why? Because the sky is blue.
Right.
So that's circular reasoning. That means your premise and your conclusion is saying the same thing. That is fallacious stuff.
Basically, you're talking in circles.
Right. You talking in circles, right? Go ahead.
Confirmation bias.
Oh, this is a big one, right? Go ahead.
Confirmation bias is a cognitive bias that describes our tendency to cherry pick,
Mhm.
recall, and interpret information so that it confirms our existing ideas, views, and values.
So I want to say something about this, right? This is what it was talking about when it says that people are opposing themselves. They have a confirmation bias. You still got to come to them in meekness. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to hear. He said, let the blind people that have eyes and the deaf people that have ears, bring them to. But you still got to deal with them in meekness because some of them can be like that now.
Mhm.
But if I deal with them in meekness with the fruits of the spirit, they can let their guard down.
Yeah.
Now they can deal with sound reasoning. But you have to have the fruits of the spirit. You have to speak softly to each other, right? In order for them to not have that ego that's ruling their members, right? So that is a confirmation bias. We're gonna deal with we're gonna come back up here, but I want you to keep reading. We're gonna deal with a bias. A bias is not a bad thing. I want people to understand that, right? You have to have a bias. A bias just means that there's a position that I'm leaning towards more,
Yeah.
right? So we got a bias about the Bible, right? We've gathered enough evidence to believe that it's true. It's enough reason to believe that it's true. So now it's going to be hard for somebody to say that it's false. You got to really come with a sound argument to say that it's false. So I'm going to lean more towards that. This is a bias, but a confirmation bias is that I'm only looking for information that justifies the beliefs I have. But there's beliefs that's going to say that my beliefs are wrong. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see that, right? All right, let's finish that. Go ahead.
In other words, we naturally want to ignore evidence that would disconfirm the beliefs we already have.
All right, go ahead.
This effect is especially pronounced when the issue is important or emotionally charged to us.
Right, so we can't let it go. So we have this bias, so we start ignoring evidence that actually proves that our conclusion is false.
We deal with that anytime we're going up against Sunday goer. And you
That's-
know that.
That's what I'm saying. But even with them, you have meekness in your
You
spirit.
still
Yeah,
have to have
that-
the fruits of the spirit.
Man, you got to talk to them like real gentle. Well, I say the members. I ain't gonna say the pastor because they know what.
Oh
pretty much know
no,
what
he
they
said
doing.
rebuke them sharply.
Yeah,
like
I
that's
say go
different.
upside their head. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Now
different.
the members that's in the church, you basically got to treat them like babies. You know what I'm
Worship.
saying?
I like it when, like, say for instance, we're in a room and we got somebody that's new, right?
Mhm.
And we talk to each other about the word indirectly. So I'm not talking at them. I'm talking to y'all about the word, and then I'm talking to y'all about how much evidence we got in the word. We just talking about the evidence. That person's going to hear that, and it's gonna start convicting them. It's like, regardless if they come in right then and there, it's gonna start convicting them. They might not wake up and do what they're supposed to 10 years later, but that's the seed.
Right.
The reasoning, the strong reasoning, that is the seed. The strong reasoning with the fruits of the spirit, that is the seed. That is a effective seed, right?
Mhm.
All right, go ahead, my sister.
A hasty generalization.
All right, so you being hasty, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
A hasty generalization is one example of a logical fallacy, wherein someone reaches a conclusion that is not justified logically by objective or sufficient evidence.
Go ahead.
This is also known by several other names.
Mhm.
Insufficient sample,
Go ahead.
faulty generalization,
Go ahead.
biased generalization,
Go ahead.
jumping to a conclusion.
Or jumping to conclusions, right? So I'm being hasty in my reasoning, right? So now, what is jumping to conclusions or hasty generalization? The argument is valid. Oh, it's valid, but you jump to conclusions. You didn't have enough evidence to make a sound conclusion, right? So you jump to conclusions. This is a hasty generalization. That is fallacious, right?
So you saying just getting some information and just running with it.
Right. It's valid. That's why you
It's
ran
va-
with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It was
And
valid.
research it.
But you ain't take the time to
Make sure the conclusion was absolutely true.
So if I
So
see,
basically, you didn't show your work.
Mm-mm.
so
ahead.
if we're all in here eating fried chicken and watermelon, right? We're all black,
That's how
right?
we is.
We're all into
stereotyping.
that. I mean, we're all in here going in.
That
Right.
sound like a
And
bunch of
some-
jakes.
Yeah.
And a Gentile walks in
Mhm.
and they're like, black, fried chicken. Okay. And he goes and tell his friends,
Right.
man, all black people eat fried chicken and watermelon.
Yeah, it's valid.
Valid.
I came in here. It's inductive. So inductive is probably true because I see a pattern that's going to make me come up with a conclusion, but it's not for certain. So I jump to conclusion. I run with,
Right.
hey, y'all, black people eating all the chicken and watermelon.
Hey, I just want to say for the record, I do not like watermelon.
It's not one of my favorite
See,
things.
that's
man.
a hasty generalization. Here is a black man that does not like watermelon.
Right.
Actually, two. I'm not.
There
Wait,
are two
Well,
black
you
men.
not black. You not black, brother.
You lying.
You not black, brother.
I like that chicken.
My bad for
Right.
the hasty
Yeah.
generalization.
All right, good. All right, let's go to the next one.
Appeal to authority.
Oh, this is a big one, yo. Big one. Go ahead.
Appeal to authority is insisting that a claim is true simply because a valid authority or expert on the issue said it was true
Uh-huh.
without any other supporting evidence offered.
All right, so when it comes to God, right? I'm believing God because my elder said I should believe in God. Or I'm going to believe in God because my mom and daddy told me that God was real. That's the authority that you was over.
Mhm.
That was you was under, rather. You were under their authority. They said that this is a fact. They said that this is evidence. I didn't go check it. I just believe it because they said it. That's
Study
appealing.
to show thyself. Thyself.
Work out your own salvation with
Exactly.
fear and trembling. I got to make sure I'm not running around with fallacies. These are spirits, y'all. These are spirits, right? So actually 9 and 10 actually go really well with each other. So when you got a organization, it's called organizational thinking, right? An organization or any type of place where a mass of people come and there's somebody that they reverence as the leader, they're going to conform. Most people, you got to watch out for that, are going to conform to what the leader says because they're not going to check the evidence when he lays it out.
So that's like, my bad.
Go ahead.
No, so that's like going to class on the Sabbath day and listening to the lesson, but not researching it for yourself.
Right. So I'm going to the class. Oh, I know he right because it's him. Right. And then
Respect the person.
I come back to the crib. All right, y'all, it's time to party all week, such and such and such. But then when the Sabbath comes in, man, yo, this is so valid. This is so valid. And then they run with it because they are making a hasty generalization, right? Because they jump into conclusions because they're appealing to authority. They think because he said it that it's true, right? Go ahead.
The bandwagon fallacy.
All right, the bandwagon fallacy. Go ahead.
The bandwagon fallacy is committed whenever one argues for an idea based upon irrelevant appeal to its popularity.
All right, everybody thinks it's true, so it's got to be true. Right? So these are the common fallacies. It's a lot of fallacies, right? If you want to go out there, if you want to go and research it, you can go on YouTube, you can go on the internet, grab you some sources, type up logical fallacies. It's a lot of them, right? So these are just the basic 10 that you're going to deal with in regular life, right? You are going to deal with people that throw insults at you, change the subject. They change the subject, obviously change the subject because they think you're a dummy, right?
A straw man.
A straw man, right? So they obviously change the subject, or they ain't gonna play with your intelligence. So I'm gonna throw you a red herring, right? It's gonna seem like we staying on topic, but it's really not staying on topic, right? Or I'm gonna appeal to ignorance because you ain't got no evidence. I'm gonna make the audience think that my conclusion is true because you don't have any evidence. Right? Or I'm gonna commit a genetic fallacy. I'm not gonna take this source. Ben that wrote this whole thing about the sky being blue, but you slapped your mama. I'm sorry, fam. I'm just sorry. I can't I can't rely on your evidence, sir.
Jeanette Brooks, I would never slap you.
All right, so circular reasoning, of course, you're going in circles, right? Your conclusion, your premise is saying the same thing. This is not a sound argument, right? Or you got a confirmation bias. You want to believe what you want to believe. So I'm going to look for information that justifies my belief, even though there's information out there that completely invalidates my argument.
Right.
Right.
So I've been arguing wrong all my life.
Probably.
Dang.
Probably. All right. So a hasty generalization. I'm jumping to conclusions. I don't have enough evidence to make a sound argument, right? I'm appealing to authority because somebody is the valid. Notice it says the valid expert. Y'all notice that? He's a valid expert. So most than likely he
Like the theologians or whatever they
theologians,
call it.
yeah.
Theologians. Like they experts on the Bible, boy. They know exactly what they talking about. But they be
Uh,
wrong with most of the stuff that they be
They
saying,
could
man.
be dead wrong.
Like, dude, or the people that say that the earth is over 3 billion years old and all that.
Mhm. How do you know that?
Where's your evidence? That's what I want to know. Where's your evidence, man?
Look, I always say
On what
this.
premise are you making this claim?
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
But you're an expert at this. You know,
Right.
you got a whole, like, people getting paid millions of dollars because they're expert at, like, knowing that the earth is 3 billion years old. But there's no proof.
An
No.
expert at spewing fallacies.
Now, what's crazy is that these same people, right, when you get into history, right, show us the form of things. These same people will say, well, writing didn't come on the scene till about 3,300 BCE. So you mean to tell me
real
that nobody knew how to write for 3 billion
years?
Come on, fam.
3 billion and a half. Or
Come
however
on.
you say it.
So if y'all would just take the time to reason and
Right.
really don't be lazy in your thinking, reason, you will see, man, this stuff don't even make sense. I'm actually making sense out of a fallacious argument.
So what would evolution fall under?
Man, fallacious. Fallacious is a hasty generalization. Right.
Mashavu said in the chat, that's why we have to keep ourselves in check so we can speak truth and be blamed.
Right, exactly, right. So if you can't do that if you're around here spitting out fallacies, right? All right, continue, my sister.
The name bandwagon fallacy comes from the phrase jump on the bandwagon.
All right, so just jump on the bandwagon, right? Just like people, you know, man, you a bandwagon. Like when people talk about the basketball game,
Right.
LeBron James that went to the Lakers. Now I like the Lakers.
Bandwagon fan.
You a bandwagon fan, right? Because now everybody likes the Lakers because LeBron is on the Lakers. You didn't like LeBron. You didn't like the Lakers. But everybody else likes the Lakers, so I'm gonna like the Lakers.
And
now.
everybody else like LeBron, so now you like LeBron, or
That's your reasoning for liking
everybody
LeBron.
that's under a certain age think he's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, continue, my sister.
Or climb on the bandwagon.
Go ahead.
A bandwagon being a wagon big enough to hold a band of musicians. In past political campaigns, candidates would ride a bandwagon through town, and people would show support for the candidate by climbing aboard the wagon. The phrase has come to refer to joining a cause because of its popularity.
I think it's a sound argument that she should be the new Siri.
I was going to tell her that after we finished. Like she needs to apply somewhere where she uses her voice. You need to read books for people or something. I promise you, I was going to say. I was thinking that the whole time. Like her voice,
reasoning.
like
I thought it was just me.
right. I think she could read stuff for people. She could be on the phone, but like for
The new
movies, press
Bible,
one.
the Bible app, the new voice on the Bible
You
app.
can tell people to press 1 when they want a certain movie.
The movie phone. You know what I'm saying?
Please press 1 now.
Oh,
Oh,
real, see,
man.
look, didn't that sound perfect, y'all?
Yes.
It sound like I want to go see that movie now.
All right, go ahead, my sister.
Glossary of critical thinking terms.
All right. So now what we're going to do, we're almost finished, right? We're going to go down to where it says authority. And so what I want you guys, this is for the men. I'm going to say this, right?
Well, we're
This-
gonna stop at authority.
No, we're going to start at
Skip
at-
to authority.
Skip
Oh,
to
skip to
authority. I'm
authority,
sorry.
okay.
Skip to authority. All right. We're going to skip to authority. I want the men to really understand this, right? So though you're the authority in your household, there is a certain way to be wise
Mhm.
in your household.
Mhm.
Now let's look at what authority just means, but let's look at when it's wise authority, right? Go ahead.
Authority,
Mm-hmm.
the power or supposed right to give commands,
Mm-hmm.
enforce obedience,
Uh-huh.
take action, or make final decisions.
All right, gentlemen, y'all definitely got that. I'm gonna tell you something. That's a curse in the Bible.
Man,
Okay.
So don't get too beside yourself.
man,
It is
It's
a curse.
It's a
It's
curse.
really, if you really think about it, it was really like, well, you couldn't stop your wife from sinning in the first place, so I got to make a law to make you do it.
Mm.
So don't get too.
look, man,
And I'm gonna make you at fault for everything.
man, look, man, hey, man.
Can't nobody cover you because I'm your covering.
Hey, yo,
You can
man,
cover
you
her,
can be
though.
dead asleep, man, and somebody can be calling, man, about a $68 bill that you ain't paid. Baby, get on the phone. Can't you talk to them, please? No, you the man. Talk to him.
All right, so
Everything fall on your shoulders, man.
yeah, man, it is a burden sometimes, right?
Everything.
All right, and I hope the sisters understand that there are brothers out there that understand. Yo, it is a curse
Dude,
and it is a burden sometimes because
Woo.
everything lands on us.
heavy is the head that wears the crown.
So if you around here,
Dude.
man, you need to submit to me. Like, man, almost make your own decisions. Like, man,
Dude,
dang.
Right.
Like, I don't want
Man,
to.
you a grown woman, man. You know
But
what
I don't want to rule over nobody. I can't. Man, I
You
gotta-
don't want to conquer.
So we don't. Right. We need to have it from the
Like-
Hebraic thought. The Hebraic thought.
Let's reason together.
Right. So the Hebraic thought of submission is to cooperate with one another. Right.
right.
That's what the church is supposed to do with one another, right? Church is supposed to submit one to another. So if that is the case, how can you submit? How am I submitting to Ben? And then my lady's coming to me with strong reasoning. Man, well, I said you gonna do this, that, and that, but I'm being fallacious,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
The strong reason, it's the submitting to the strong reasoning. That's the wise thing to do, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Some,
Oh, go
there's
ahead.
some things that your woman, she probably know that you don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That I'm just using that as an example. Certain things or certain moves, like let's just say you would know this. Let's just say, for instance, this boy we're looking at this chessboard. That queen can make moves, man, that king can't make.
Mhm.
That king can only make one move this way, that move. He can move all ways, but she can move all over the board. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Big steps, little steps, whatever. She can. So yeah, man. Even though we got the final authority, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes, man, you gotta adhere to that queen, man, because she got a little bit more knowledge on certain subjects. Or I'm gonna be real with you. Just put it like this: my business would not be as successful as it is right now
Mhm.
if I didn't adhere to my wife.
Man.
Because she helped grow. Trust me,
Mhm.
Ben, you should do this. Ben, you should do that.
So let me
Well, that
ask you.
makes sense.
So let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
It's chess, not checkers, right?
Right. It's always chess.
What?
Never checkers.
I love checkers.
Never. Yeah. Keep on jumping your butt around with that
them
check.
fallacious
yo,
arguments.
check
We ain't even talking
I love
about that.
I
yo.
love checkers, man. I love
We
checkers.
not even talking about that.
Hey,
Yo.
but no, that's real
Hey,
tough.
yo,
'Cause
check this. Keep
the
on jumping
woman-
your butt around with them checkers, man. You
Man,
gonna
look.
find out something.
The woman is gonna take your idea and throw it through the roof, Joe.
Right.
all day
For real.
long,
Take it to the
man.
moon.
I'm
Yes,
telling
sir.
you. That's how she can move as far as she can move.
All right, so now let's read the second one. So we want to move from the idea. Once again, you are still the person giving the commands, enforcing obedience, all that. Once again, it's a curse. I gotta be responsible for doing it. But what are you doing it? What are you leading her to? What are you actually leading her to? All right, number 2.
A person with much knowledge and expertise in a field, hence reliable.
Go ahead.
Critical thinkers recognize that ultimate authority rests with reason and evidence.
Oh,
Mm.
so if you're a real authority, you will give your wife a reason you want her to do something.
Exactly.
A strong reason.
It just ain't gonna be barking orders because you got the right to bark an order.
Right, that's
You know
that's
what I'm
crazy.
saying?
Why would you want to do that to somebody you're supposed to love like Christ loves you?
Exactly.
Does
Right.
Christ do that to you? No. What? Look at what Christ.
Anything that Christ does, man, he tell you to do or don't do, he always got a reason behind it. Every single thing. Hey, yo, let's just say, for instance, the not eating certain unclean things,
Mm.
pork. Let's just say, he said, don't eat that pork. He ain't just saying that just don't eat the pork, man, because hey, I don't want you to eat pork. There's reason behind that. Like, don't eat it because it's bad for your body, man. Like,
Right.
I created that body, so I know what should go in and what shouldn't go in it. So don't do that.
All
You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Now, like, watch this, y'all. Let's just say I'm God, Israel's my lady, right?
Mhm.
That's how it is, right?
Yep.
I come and be like, baby, man, just don't commit adultery. I just said don't commit adultery, though. Like, what is wrong with that? Or you shouldn't kill people. How you gonna tell me what to do? Man? It's like, I kill whoever I want to kill.
Right. Like, there's a reason why I'm telling you not to kill.
Kill,
people.
right? People die.
People-
They hurt.
People don't want to die.
Right.
So don't kill people.
Or here
Do
you
you
go.
want to die?
What, like, so with people, we come back and you say, man, just keep my Sabbath days, this, that, and third, right?
Mm-hmm.
Baby, I gave you one day to just rest. You ain't gotta do nothing.
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 Just chill with me. and
Well,
let's
what
talk.
if I want to work then? What is you talking about? See, that's a person that's just, now you're a rebellious woman.
That's it.
Because he has a strong, man, I want you to rest.
Just chill.
I made a whole day for you to rest
and talk to me.
and talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to that dude over there. He don't treat me right, but I'm gonna go talk to him anyway.
Get you out then. with the
Real
come on.
talk. Exactly what he said. I get out my house.
Right, get out my house.
And
You
we
didn't
ain't
open.
been back since.
You didn't open. Look. Hold on.
Been back since.
After I've done all this for you, you didn't open your legs to every
Oh.
man that walked by. And now you want to come. Now you want to come back. Hey,
Want to come to the crib and chill.
hold on. I finally forgive you, right? Now you saying, yeah, we back good. Okay, but them other people, they can't come in. The heathens, only Israel can be saved, right? Them other people can't come in. You can barely get in.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
Barely.
You committed adultery.
You was a whore.
I was actually married
You
to
wasn't
you.
an imperious whore. You weren't
Imperious.
just a-
You literally committed adultery. I didn't even marry them. I married Joe.
right.
And
So they
imperious
still got a chance to get
insatiable.
married.
So when I'll be saying this, right? If you gotta sometimes compare your wife to Israel.
Gotcha.
You're gonna sit there and be like, man, she
It's
ain't
not
that
that
bad.
bad.
Yeah,
It's
she
not
ain't
that
that bad. Like if you did see what God dealt with his wife,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah, you can really deal with your wife.
And he's still gonna marry her at the end.
Ain't gonna marry
Because he's gonna remember the covenant. Nevertheless.
Nevertheless.
If you guys, just a side note, if you guys would like a good read, you can read Ezekiel 16. It's a really great chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters. It's a sad, sad love story.
It really is, man. It's like God showing you how he feels as far as you being his woman.
Real
Yes.
talk.
And I'm sitting here, he didn't say it, man. He didn't say
He
something.
just set it out.
That
said it-
chapter is deep.
Ooh, he
That
set it
chapter
out.
is
chapter
real
is
deep. That chapter is real. And he's snapping on you.
Real at the same
He
time.
got all the evidence. Here's the thing. He making a sound argument over your wickedness, right?
Real
He got all the sound evidence, but then he finally get down. He said,
Nevertheless.
Yeah, but
nevertheless, girl, man, I love you, man. I can't
that
even
hard-headed
Look.
woman of mine.
and I always forget you.
And I always forgive. I
Always.
always forgive you, but I'm gonna kill the bad part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that evil
Don't-
part of you got to go before you come back home.
Right. You can't be around here. So don't be the bad part of the wife of God.
Real
Okay.
talk.
All right. All right. So let's go to no, we got to finish that. Go ahead. All right, so let's say a person with much knowledge and expertise in the field, hence reliable. Critical thinkers recognize that ultimate authority rests with reason and evidence. Go ahead.
Since it is only on the assumption that purported experts have the backing of reason and evidence that they rightfully gain authority.
All right, so the purported means that they're so-called experts. So these so-called experts, so people assume, right, they're appealing to authority. People assume that these so-called experts have the backing of reason and evidence that they rightfully gain authority. But you don't check to see if their evidence is correct.
Like NASA.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, go ahead, my sister.
Much instruction discourages critical thinking by encouraging students to believe that whatever the text or teacher says is true.
So, hey, you got to check the text. You got to study, because if somebody says this is true and they don't open it and show you, it's not valid. It's not sound. You got to go in and do the work and rightfully divide and actually reason with them with the fruits of the spirit and show them the evidence so that they may know, believe, and consider, and we can all come together and
And
make a
reason,
sound
yeah.
conclusion, right?
Mhm.
All right, go ahead, my sister.
As a result, students do not learn how to assess authority.
Right, so they don't know how to assess authority, meaning that all these different experts, these are my sources. All these different experts are my sources. So I'm going to take the evidence they present to make a conclusion, not the fact that they presented it and it's them to make my conclusion. Right? You don't want to do that, right? All right, so let's deal with bias. We're going to deal with two more things and we're out of here. Let's deal with bias. And one another thing is we're going to do a part 2 to this next week.
Hey
Right.
now.
We're going to
I
do
like
a
it.
part 2 to this next week. We're really getting into it. But the next week, we're going to talk about what is venting and emotional dumping.
Yeah. So if y'all want to be a part of our live audience, please tune in to Iron Sharpens Iron and come down to the American Podcast Network.
Yeah,
Yerp.
yeah. What he said.
Yeah, all that.
All right. So what is venting? What is emotional dumping? And here's the big thing. What is an apology?
Well,
Now
I can
that's-
tell you what emotional dumping is. That's when you take somebody and make them an emotional punching bag.
Hey man, we got a show next week. They ain't gonna want to come and see it. You giving up all
You gotta give them a little bit at a time.
But that one, that what is an apology? Now I'll say this, right? I was just playing. I gotta say that now because I gotta justify my
We got
reason.
a show next week. we got a show next week.
Yeah.
Real?
Yeah, we got a show next week.
All praise.
Yes, sir.
Yo, hasty generalize.
All right, so now once again, what is an apology? All right, so I'm gonna just say this, right? An apology is a lot of people will be like, man, somebody is sorry, and then they'll try to give the reason for why they did what they did. I don't want to hear your excuses. That's not an apology.
Right.
An apology is actually not I'm sorry. The apology is actually the reason why you did it.
Right.
So you should want excuses if you run a real apology.
Mhm.
Right.
We're gonna get into that next week. I'm not gonna
Okay.
ruin it. I'm gonna give you the gist of it right now. All right, so let's go to bias. Bias. What is a bias? Go ahead.
Bias. A mental learning or inclination.
Leaning.
Sorry,
Read it again.
I said learning. Sorry. Bias.
Read.
A mental leaning or inclination.
No, you gotta go. No. That's right. Hey, man. All right, so bias is a mental leaning or inclination. Once again, we have a bias. You have to have a bias. Otherwise, you're not going to stand on anything, right? Go ahead.
We must clearly distinguish two different senses of the word bias.
Okay, go ahead.
One is neutral, the other is negative.
So one is neutral. So I have a bias. I have an inclination to lean a certain way, but then I have a confirmation bias. I'm going to ignore the evidence that says that my argument is invalid. That's the negative, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
In the neutral sense, we are referring simply to the fact that because of one's point of view,
Go ahead.
one notices some things rather than others,
Uh-huh.
emphasizes some points rather than others,
Go ahead.
and think in one direction rather than others.
So you guys, it's not bad to think.
Thanks.
Remember, the Bible says you got to be a singleness of mind, right? So it's telling you to have a bias, right? It's just don't cherry pick,
Right.
right? Don't start cherry picking and stuff. Go
Well,
ahead.
basically, like the Lord said, choose life or death. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying?
So if it sound that if you don't do this, that you're gonna choose death, and you try to look for information that says that you're not gonna get death. I don't want to die, but I don't want to stop committing adultery.
Right. I actually know a brother.
You know a brother that don't want to stop committing adultery?
No, I know a brother. Well, I ain't gonna lie, I do know a lot of brothers. I ain't gonna lie, I do know a lot of brothers that
Somebody
I
shot,
can't
somebody down.
Yo, I ain't gonna front. I do know some brothers that don't want to stop doing stuff like that, man.
Right,
Them
yeah.
cats that's not in the truth. But I say I know a brother that's in the truth right now that he literally told me, like, I was looking in the Bible a way I could get out of this, but I can't find no way, so I'm stuck. Like literally, but
At least he know he's stuck.
he know he's stuck. Now, don't get me wrong, he hard soldier for the Lord, but he told me like I was looking for a way to get up out of this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what he had gave up, he gave up the life that most cats out here is chasing right now. He
Yeah.
completely gave it up and said like this is where it's at. I gotta
Mhm.
do it. But at first he was like, man, I was trying to find a way up out of this through the scripture too. That's the killing part. He was like looking at it like, is there a way I get? Nah, I can't find it.
No, you're not gonna be able to find that, right? But go
There you
ahead,
go.
my sister.
This is not in itself a criticism because thinking within a point of view is unavoidable.
Right. So you're gonna have a point of view. You're gonna have your own point of view. You're gonna make evaluations. You're gonna come up with a conclusion, right? That don't mean you have all the evidence. That's why you have to do an assessment. You got to consider everybody's point of view and then make a conclusion after that, right? So we got to come up with a consensus, right? All right, go ahead.
In the negative sense, we are implying blindness or irrational resistance to weakness within one's own point of view,
Uh-huh.
or to the strength or insight within a point of view one opposes.
Right. So somebody's opposing your point of view, and then they have strengths in their argument. And what do you want to do? I want to be blind, right? Bring forth the blind people that have eyes and the deaf
Mhm.
people that have ears. I want them too. Because God can say, I'm about to cut.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to cut them with the fruits of the spirit until, they start teaching people this. Now I'm going to have to rebuke them sharply.
Yeah.
Right. But that's when you rebuke sharply, right? You don't rebuke somebody sharply that's not trying to do this for filthy lucre's sake. You want to give them a chance because pre-adventure, God will give them the acknowledging of the truth, right? So you want to make sure that at least if I have the fruits of the spirit with good reasoning behind it, then that person might be able to correct themselves.
Right.
That's opposing themselves, right? Go ahead.
Fair-minded critical thinkers try to be aware of their bias
Mhm.
in sense one, and try hard to avoid bias in sense two.
So what they do is they are mindful of their point of view, but they don't want to have a confirmation bias.
Right.
So that's what a critical thinker, he's making sure he's not having a confirmation bias. He's going to keep his bias until somebody brings him a sound argument, and he's going to change his point of view. And then he's going to be biased about that.
Right.
But until then, he's going to be mindful of, it's not just about my point of view. I can eventually make an assessment, right? Go ahead.
Many people confuse these two senses.
Mhm.
Many confuse bias with emotion or with evaluation.
Go ahead.
Perceiving any expression of emotion or any use of evaluative words
Mhm.
to be biased, since 2.
Go ahead.
Evaluative words that can be justified by reason and evidence are not biased in the negative sense.
So if you got evidence and reason behind it, then your bias is not negative.
right.
So that's what we want to understand, right? All right, we got one more thing. I want to get to this because just like the bias is misunderstood, so are assumptions.
Mm.
Assumptions are misunderstood, right?
You make it ass out of you and shit.
Yeah, that depends. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is the you assuming, brother. All right, so let's look at assumption real quick. Matter of fact, let's do it to assume, and then we're gonna read assumption. And that's gonna be it. All right, go ahead. To assume.
I don't know where that is.
It is on the paper before. So you got this.
Hey, why you ain't put page numbers on here?
You just gonna bust me out like that?
Oh.
Give me a reason why I needed page numbers, fam.
Because we can't find it, bro.
Right. It's on the next. It's on the page before that. You know, it wouldn't have mattered if you had the page. It didn't say where it was at.
What are we looking for now?
All right, we
assume
were just on this
or
page.
assumption.
It's like ambiguous, analyze,
Yeah,
argue.
Yes.
yeah. All right, to assume. You got it? All right, go ahead.
To assume, to take for granted or to presuppose.
All right, go ahead.
Critical thinkers can and do make their assumptions explicit,
Uh-huh.
assess them,
Uh-huh.
and correct them.
So you always start out with an assumption. An assumption is a hypothesis. That's what an assumption is, right? But you got to assess it, meaning that you got to reason together with multiple people to come up with a conclusion. And then if you find the things that are wrong, correct them, right? Go ahead.
Assumptions can vary from the mundane to the problematic.
Right. So the stuff that's small, but then the stuff that's really going to give you a problem, right? Assumptions can vary between the two. Go ahead.
I heard a scratch at the door.
Mm-hmm.
I got up to let the cat in.
Go ahead.
I assumed that only the cat. I'm sorry. I assume that only the cat makes that noise,
Uh-huh.
and that he makes it only when he wants to be let in.
Right. Do we really have to analyze that though? So what? The cat smacks at the door. He wanted to come in. This, that, and third. Is that something? So that's another thing. Is that something that we want to analyze? Is that worth analyzing? So you got to realize that sometimes an argument is not worth analyzing. So why are we having it? Right?
But what else is gonna be that's scratching at the door?
A cat. So we can adjust. That's what I mean. But it's still a valid argument. It's
Scratching
not.
the paint off the door.
It's not sound because we don't know. The cat can't go to the cat and he say, I only scratch the door when I want to come in, because we're going to start saying that cats can talk. So remember, I have to understand that when it comes to deductive reasoning, it has to be absolutely true. If stuff is not absolutely true, why am I going to go back and forth with somebody and I ain't got the sound argument?
Right.
Right?
Sound
All right, go ahead.
foolish.
Someone speaks gruffly to me.
Uh-huh.
I feel guilty and hurt.
Uh-huh.
I assume he is angry at me.
Go ahead.
That he is only angry at me when I do something bad.
Go ahead.
And that if he's angry at me, he dislikes me.
All right, so that's an assumption, right? And it's a valid assumption. So that's something to be analyzed. So now, man, do you talk to me like that because you don't like me? Because we got friction, and if we're gonna, be loving and all that to one
Right.
another, we got to get past this. But I don't care about no cat scratching the door.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So think about any arguments that you had. They got to be either minuscule, they mundane, or it's problematic.
Right.
Hey, this man probably don't like me. He be always saying this when I do something bad, but it's the way he say it though. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Go ahead.
Notice that people often equate making assumptions with making false assumptions.
So there's nothing wrong with an assumption, but you can't stay at an assumption because that's what? A hasty generalization. You can't stay at the hypothesis. You got to actually do the results, procedures to come up with a conclusion. We learn this in science class.
Or it's not sound.
Or it's not sound, right? Go ahead.
When people say don't assume, that is what they mean.
Uh-huh.
In fact, we cannot avoid making assumptions, and some are justifiable.
Right. So some assumptions are justified. So, right, you got inductive reasoning, right? So some assumptions are justifiable, but you can't make a hasty generalization. You got to make sure you got sufficient evidence to make a sound conclusion. Go ahead.
For instance, we have assumed that people who buy this book can read English.
Here you go, fam. You speak whole French. Comment allez-vous? You speak whole French. You know what? You live in America, Joe. I know you can read that, Joe. That's okay. So automatically, since he lives in America, he speaks English. So I'm gonna just give him the KJV Bible, right? But he's from France. Right, go ahead.
This is a fundamental problem in human life.
Mm-hmm.
To argue in the critical thinking sense is to use Am I in the right spot?
No, rather than saying,
Right. And I'm like,
I'm so like, man, I'm lost.
Okay. I'm like, this didn't go with what I was reading. Okay. Rather than saying never assume,
Uh-huh.
we say be aware of and careful about the assumptions you make and be ready to examine and critique them.
That's what you should be saying, right? Don't ever assume it make, the A out of you and me. But that now you can't have that mindset, because then you don't even want to take somebody's assumption and deal with it.
Right.
All right, you know what? Your point is valid, but you need more evidence. And if you got the evidence and make it sound, I'll apologize and give my reason for why I did what I did. You see how that goes back and forth? That is good communication.
Effective communication.
That is effective communication, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Assumption.
All right, so the assumption, right? Go ahead.
A statement accepted or supposed as true without proof or demonstration.
Right. Once again, a hasty generalization. Go ahead.
An unstated premise or belief.
Mm-hmm.
All human thought and experience is based on assumptions.
Right. So once again, because we weren't there, if we ain't there to witness it, if we can't witness it with our own eyes, we can't say it is for certain at all. So it's going to automatically be an assumption, just like faith is an assumption. If you look at it like that, when you come to people, I assume this is true, but I examined the evidence and I did an assessment, and the stuff that I was believing in that don't make it make sense, I'm gonna go back and correct that so it does make sense. So now I'm gonna persuade you in the righteous sense that it's a sound argument, right? To believe in the Bible, a sound conclusion to believe in the Bible. Go ahead.
Our thoughts must begin with something we take to be true in a particular context.
Go ahead.
We are typically unaware of what we assume and therefore rarely question our assumptions.
That's what makes it a problem. So I don't question my assumptions. I got this thought in my head and I'm going to just let it linger. But here's the thing. Now I got a confirmation bias, so I don't even want to see if my assumption is false, right? So I just want to feel, because this is emotionally charged to me and this is important to me. So I could be wrong, but I don't care if I'm wrong. It's you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Go ahead.
Much of what is wrong with human thought can be found in the uncritical or unexamined assumptions that underlie it.
Go ahead.
For example, we often experience the world in such a way as to assume that we are observing things just as they
Go
are,
ahead.
as though we were seeing the world without the filter of a point of view.
Go ahead.
People we disagree with, of course, we recognize as having a point of view.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key dispositions of critical thinking is the ongoing sense that as humans, we always think within a
Right.
perspective.
So sometimes it's limited, even like your rationale. That's why you cannot rely on singular evaluations. You need to do an assessment. You need other witnesses, a mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, right? Because one witness, I got one witness and I bring to the stand, that's not going to hold up in God's court. It's not. I have to have 2 or 3 witnesses, so I got to make an assessment. Go ahead.
That we virtually never experience things totally and absolutistically. Absolutistically.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
There is a connection, therefore, between thinking to be aware of our assumptions and being intellectually humble.
Man, we're going to leave it at that. Intellectually humble. When you see that your argument is not sound, humble yourself.
Yes, sir.
And correct
And
yourself.
keep your assumptions to your mind.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, no.
No, that's
You need
if you
to-
ain't got
If you ain't got no
evidence.
evidence.
Right.
Yes,
because
sir. Yes,
I would
sir.
like to hear all assumptions that cannot be disproven.
Absolutely. And I want to hear if it's valid, let's deal with it.
Exactly.
So
All right.
wouldn't assumption be like a good guess though, if you was right?
Yeah, it's a good
hypothesis.
Yeah, a hypothesis.
Hypothesis.
Yeah, that's a good guess. An educated guess is still
Right.
an assumption.
Okay.
All right, all praise. So first of all, I want to Thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the people that was on the podcast. As always, we're going to keep doing this over and over again. All right, so I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Holy One of Israel, who is Jesus. I am Cassius Israel, a.k.a. Kazak Ben Yehuda. I represent the Walls of Jericho Biblical and Historical Studies, Hebrews in the Hood Entertainment, or Brews in the Hood Entertainment. And we got the second part of this next week. I hope to see y'all there. Once again, the public, if you want to join us at the spot, you can, right? Because we're going to get it in with this, right?
Yes, sir.
You know it, man.
These podcast sessions are so informative. I am blessed and honored and just grateful to be here.
And dismayed.
I mean, it's not like we only got a fellowship on the Sabbath, man. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, we could go past just breaking open book, man, because, I mean, we deal with everyday life. You know what I'm saying? And we need help in everyday life.
We sure do. All right, so now we going to close. We going to end that. Like I said, I hope to see y'all next week, and we are out of here.
Well,
Shalom.
actually, I would like to
Keep chatting.
keep chatting because
my bad. They said keep chatting, keep chatting.
They said keep going.
That's what we were trying to get.
I was like, see, I didn't get the reasoning behind it.
Communication.
It wasn't communicated thoroughly to me, but that's okay. I got it now. I understand. All right, so let's keep talking, right? So what y'all feel? How do y'all feel about what we just went over?
I feel that this information I can take with me when I go out into the world with my bias, right? Because I am biased.
Right, yeah.
I'm just I don't have a confirmation bias.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
So I am biased. So when I go out and converse with people and, you know, have dialogue with people, I can identify fallacies.
Fallacies
You
that they
think you're
putting out
going to
there.
throw a straw man. You think you're going to throw an ad hominem. You think you're going to throw a red herring.
Mhm.
But I'm
Keep
going
you
to
on
catch
subject.
that.
We ain't
I'm going to
keep you on
catch that.
Real talk.
Keep you on your toes.
And we're going to stay on the subject at hand. So this stuff is really, I feel like it's helped me. It has helped me. And I can't wait to go out in the world and use it like,
You doing
that's a straw man.
man.
You can't do that.
Not only that, I mean, yeah, it's good in the world too when you're dealing with like people, but especially in your own home.
Yeah.
Like us married or got a girlfriend or whenever you've been together for a little while, you know that arguments is gonna come.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I know
Yeah.
you can attest to that, bro. Brother Mike. You know what I'm saying? You know I can attest to it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody up in your real long.
I'm just trying to use this information to edify, man, and make sure I'm on point. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So,
And that's why I was going with
yeah.
now that we have this information, say you and your spouse do have a disagreement.
Mhm.
Now we got a pretty much a playbook on how we're
Mhm.
going to get each point of view across without taking it to the all right, now we yelling at each other, things getting thrown and all this other stuff. You know how
Right.
it gets there. You
Because
know what
it's
I'm
just
saying?
simply to show errors in our everyday conversation.
Exactly.
And not
Exactly.
make it seem like I know more than you.
Yeah.
I'm smarter than
Oh,
you.
exactly.
Nah.
You got to
we
be
ain't know none of that.
intellectually humble, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if I'm coming to you, the whole thing is I'm allowing myself to be wrong. So if I see the process being played out, you come in with evidence, and then I see that it's sound. All I gotta do is be like, okay, I'm a stay. I got a bias, and I'm gonna
Right.
keep this bias until you make a sound argument. So with me, if you make a sound argument, I'm gonna change my conclusion.
Exactly.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And
I'm forced to believe something different now.
Right.
And humble myself to the fact that I am now wrong.
Right. So another thing that I'm gonna say this, just because we did this, another thing I'm gonna put out to any Hebrews, whatever doctrine that y'all may have, or this, that, and the third, we can sit here and go and reason together. If we are
Okay.
wrong, this is out of love. This is not
Yeah.
about debate, necessarily vain debate with vain glory and
I
none
know
of that.
more than you. Or
I know
anything
more than
all
you.
that.
Right.
Hey,
I
I
know more
can,
book than you and all.
You're just trying to have a healthy argument.
I'm just trying to have a healthy argument.
We
And we're-
need to get on one accord.
That's
Right.
the
That's
thing.
what it is.
Right.
Plain and simple.
We need to get on one accord because we cannot, if we got different doctrines, somebody got a confirmation bias. Somebody is using fallacies. Because if I come and talk to you and then my argument is sound, not valid, but it's sound,
And we all reading from the same book now.
right, and it's all being instructed the same way,
Exactly.
then why shouldn't we come up with the same conclusion? That does not make
It doesn't-
sense.
that never made sense
That's
to
because
me.
you got straw mans, red herrings. You know, y'all trying to add to the
Yeah,
book.
a
man.
lot of people put a lot of emotion when it comes to the book when you shouldn't be putting your own emotion into it. You got a lot of people that put emotion. They didn't learn this way for so long, or they've
Right.
been knowing this for so long, so they just can't let it. So they're emotionally attached to whatever fallacy or whatever, whatever doctrine that they have. They're they're not only like I've been talking, but now they're emotionally attached to it.
Right.
So they're gonna come with all the fallacies and everything, just defend what they said. Like you said, they start throwing them red herrings or and all that, or the homonyms and all that, start talking about you and all that. Just because they're now emotionally attached to what they believe. You know what I'm saying?
That's a spirit, though.
That's a spirit,
it's a
right?
spirit.
So my thing is, if you sitting there and you arguing with somebody and you see they got a confirmation bias, you can see the spirit on them, right? So that's what I'm saying is deep. Or you went ahead and you got a valid argument, you went ahead anyway, and you had a conclusion. Now your doctrine has changed. You made a hasty generalization.
Yeah.
That's stuff we got to watch out for. We got to warn each other about. I should be able to tell you, hey, man, that's a straw man. Why are you changing the subject?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Let's stay on topic because you're trying to persuade me with something that's valid, but it's not sound.
Right.
Or it's even part of the subject.
It's not valid if you change the subject, it's not valid.
Not valid.
Right.
If you change the subject, it's definitely not valid, right? So we got to understand this stuff because if we don't, y'all, something is going to go wrong. And we got to understand that, hey, a servant of the Lord is not supposed to strike. Next thing you know, somebody done killed each other in the crib.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have healthy arguments. Then there are people that can't have healthy arguments because they didn't learn, and then they got emotional dysfunction from their upbringing, from their childhood, right? So then you got to practice it more and more. But first, you got to get the instructions. If you don't get the instructions, how are you going to be aware of actually what I'm doing wrong, right? All right. What you think, bro, man? I ain't heard from you.
No, I mean, I'm listening to everybody,
He like,
wise
dang.
man.
Definitely want to hear
That's
your
true.
wisdom, my brother.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like you were saying, I mean, it's a good idea. When you heat it, just take a chill, chill, because that your emotions, man, you will be off cussing somebody out, out of character. You know what I mean? Now you like, man, I knew I shouldn't have said that. Or I knew I shouldn't have did that.
And you can almost see yourself doing it as you doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Like, let me just chill. Let me listen.
Right.
If somebody make you mad, or you see, just look at them for a little while. Like, give me some time to think.
Let me bite my
quick.
lip a little bit.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
when you emotionally charged, man, it's a lot of people sitting in jail right now on
Off
a lot
emotions.
of time because they got too upset, and now they thinking,
Now you
I
critically
should have never
thinking.
did. Right.
You critically
Exactly.
thinking in jail.
Was it really that serious?
Yeah,
Right.
was it really that serious?
It
right?
wasn't that serious.
Or you sit here like y'all have an argument and you decide, man, this is something I want to analyze. And if it's not that serious and then y'all blow up about it, was it that serious, right? And so you got to understand that, like, sometimes stuff it's just not that
Yeah,
serious.
it be like that too, especially like growing up as a kid, getting in street fights with your friends, like you homies, like with y'all get into like a little fist fight to like a disagreement.
Yeah.
And you be like, dang, man, I shouldn't even, man, I'm sorry for stealing on you, man. You reconsider the matter after you should realize it wasn't worth it. I got that.
Man, it could
steam
be
off.
something so simple. You come in the crib and it's late at night and you want a bowl of cereal, but somebody left a little bit of milk in the cup. And now you mad. You mad because you ain't got enough milk to fill your bowl up.
Oh, man.
Now you waking
You ain't
everybody up.
drinking the bowl out that milk. You're wasting milk. Let's see the evidence.
Nah, shout out to the audience and everybody in the comments and the chats, man. We get some hearts, man, some hearts, some like buttons, some, man, you know what I mean? Some engagement. Appreciate y'all, though.
He's got a valid argument. Oh,
Interact with your peeps, man. We out here. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, because we like I said, we just out here, man. We want to do this right. We want to do this the right way. We want to have healthy arguments, and then stop. I wish people would stop saying, and I understand it, right? But I wish people would stop saying, I don't argue the Bible. God told you to argue the Bible.
I thought that's what was supposed
How
to
you do it.
It's how you
Right.
do it.
Exactly.
That's the point. So don't argue the Bible if you're gonna chase people away. I sat here and say that.
Or if you get mad, you're gonna stab somebody.
You're gonna
afterwards,
stab
like,
somebody. You don't believe in the Sabbath day?
Like it's
Right.
not
Nah, for real. That is one thing I learned though. Like an argument should be informative. Like you should be like learning and getting facts from like the conclusion of the matter. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be nothing in between that. It should just be informative.
So what is?
And-
Oh, go ahead. My bad.
Nah,
I
you
thought
good. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, land back and what is the ultimate conclusion of God? What's the whole conclusion?
That he exists, that he is.
No.
And obedient. And obedient to him.
What's the
conclusion of God or the whole conclusion of
whole
Our-
matter?
God and
Salvation.
to fear, to fear God and
To
keep
fear
his
God and
commandments.
keep his commandments. So if I view his commandments, what reason do I have not to believe he's God? If I'm looking at the commandments, it's not like I said, he ain't telling me to do something that's detrimental to me. That's why I don't get about people like you got that old God, that sky. They was like the sky daddy. That's atheists use that terminology a lot.
But you
believe in that
cannot
old sky
find-
daddy?
But the thing is, you cannot find nothing inconsistent about what he's telling you to do.
No.
You can't find nothing wrong in what he's telling you to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Like everything that he's telling you to do, all the commandments is benefiting you.
It's better.
You can't benefit God with these. There's nothing that you can give God. What can you give him?
Right.
Right.
You literally can't give him anything. You know what I'm saying?
No, you can't.
So
give him-
he's telling you, look, man, I'm giving you this stuff. So look, you don't want nobody to come and steal your stuff, right?
Mhm.
You don't want nobody sleeping with your woman, right?
Right.
You would like to take a rest after you done worked all week, right?
Right. Yeah.
You want your kids to respect you, so why not respect your mama and dad?
Right.
I
mean, this stuff is
this
like,
is like
man,
this
love
like
each
human
other like you
101.
love yourself. Human 101.
it's like human
Like,
101, you know what I'm saying?
like, dang, you know what I'm saying? Yo, you know that pork could kill you. You keep eating it like that. And it's going to shut down your spiritual connection with me. See, that's another thing. People don't understand it. I witnessed that when I was coming into the truth and I still couldn't let pork go.
Mhm.
It was like, and I wasn't one of them ones like, man, Joe, I can let everything go except that bacon. One little strip of bacon, you just can't let it go. You know what I'm saying? But if it's a sound argument to believe in this, why am I gonna go to the lake of fire for a strip of bacon?
Right.
A
Man,
strip of bacon.
When I can get the other type of animal is bacon, I can still eat bacon.
it just got to be
Okay.
beef.
Right.
Lamb bacon.
or
beef
lamb bacon.
Ooh,
Ooh,
I never
that-
had lamb bacon. All right,
I
give
never
me some
had
of that
lamb
beef
bacon. Somebody gonna have to turn me on to the lamb.
Yeah,
I've
that-
never had
Man,
lamb
where I
bacon
get it.
myself, but I hear that it's really good.
Yeah,
But
I
a
done
nice
had the lamb
alternative.
sausage though. When we went out to Detroit that one time, Mike. We went out to Detroit that one time, man. When we went to the Bears,
Oh yeah.
the Bears and Lions game.
Yeah.
They had that
Shalom,
lamb
shalom,
sausage out there.
everybody.
You know what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah, that was
It even
fire.
they even turned my pops on.
Yeah, that
You
was
know, my
fire.
pops that came out
Yeah.
there with him.
That
He
was
had one
fire.
of them lamb sausages. He came on like, hey,
Hey.
man, where you get them from,
I
man?
think Big Bro want to bring out something.
Yeah, I wanted to show.
Oh man,
Yeah, I
let's
wanted
get
to-
it.
Bring
yeah.
it.
Hey man,
That's
if y'all
why I
got it,
didn't
bring
say
it
that
out.
much.
Bring it out.
That's why I didn't say that much.
He said, man, let's bring the book. Let the book
Yeah,
talk.
yeah,
You're
they-
talking too much.
Script talk.
Yeah,
Script talk, yeah.
Yeah, but going back to like looking at our reality. So you got people out here that's murdering people,
Mhm.
raping our sisters, doing all of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the scripture said over in Deuteronomy 11 and 21.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, let's take a look at that real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna show you this because the scripture said if you would have kept the commandments, it would have been as the days of heaven upon earth.
Wow.
Mm.
Everybody would have been, it would have been peaceful. So if you ain't got nobody breaking in your house or stealing nothing, everybody keeping the commandments, it'd have been as the days of heaven on earth. But let me show you this over here.
You said
I'll
what?
read for
Deuteronomy
you. I
what?
got you.
Deuteronomy 11 and 21.
I got you.
Thanks.
Alright.
Yep.
All right.
So
So
Deuteronomy, and then mind you, God gave this to us, right?
right.
To share with everybody else. He said, ain't no wisdom that's better than this, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we got to glorify God through the wisdom and knowledge that we got, because there ain't nothing that's comparing to this.
Real
But
talk.
let me show you this right quick.
Go
Let's
ahead.
start at just start at verse 18. Let's read 18 down to 21 to make my point. And then I got two more scripts that I want to read.
Yeah, let's
For
get
sure.
it. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading. Therefore, shall ye lay up these my words in your heart and your soul.
Wait, hold on. You see what he said? This is where everything come from, your mind.
Yeah.
There's only two ways to think, either good or evil. I mean,
Yes,
it's
sir.
only them two
Yes,
ways.
sir.
So he
Right.
said, lay these up in your heart, right? So let this direct your steps. And what else did he say?
Go ahead.
And bind them for a sign upon your hand,
Mhm.
that they may be as a frontlets between your
You
eyes.
focus. You ain't worried about no other doctrine. Whatever somebody else said, you ain't worried about that because it contradicts this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going against what the God of the creation said. And what else did he say?
And ye shall teach them your children,
Mm.
speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way,
Mhm.
when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So instead
Mhm.
of teaching your kids these silly songs
Right.
that's brainwashing people,
Mm.
you need to be teaching them this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This will keep your kid from out
Yeah,
here
no.
robbing you and knocking your grandma out,
Mhm.
stealing their purse.
Real talk.
Right? Teach this to your children, right?
Right, go ahead.
And what
real.
else did he say?
20. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thine house,
Mhm.
and upon thy gates.
You know, for the most part, black people, as soon as you walk in the house, they got the Ten Commandments right there.
Mhm.
Something else right there. As for me in my house, you probably ain't even living
Live
by
like
it,
that.
but
Yeah.
as for me in my house, we serve the Lord, right?
Right. Go ahead.
You got some remnants of the Lord in there. But what else to say?
21.
What he say?
That your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children, and the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers to give them,
That what?
as the days of heaven upon the earth.
Wait a minute. So if you would have kept the commandments of the the days of heaven upon earth.
Mhm.
That's why God is telling human beings take things out of God's law
Mhm.
and cherry pick, like we was talking
Mhm.
earlier, and they apply what they want to apply.
Uh-huh.
But if you'd have did the whole thing, it would have been as the days of heaven upon earth.
Right.
Let me
Heaven
show
on
you
earth.
something else. Right. Let
Let's
me show you
get it.
something else. Yeah. Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45, and we'll take a look at verse 19. These are the laws that governs the whole world, or should be. It's the
Mhm.
constitution of the kingdom of heaven. Watch this. Isaiah 45 and verse 19. Let's see what he said. Because God ain't telling us nothing wrong or telling us to do nothing that's harmful to each other. We're supposed to be loving one another. I want the best for everybody.
Mhm.
Because I want that for myself. Because it
Real
works both
talk.
ways. Because
Yes, sir.
if I'm putting out evil about you or want something bad for you, it's gonna come back on me too.
Yes, sir.
That's
There
all
you
day.
go.
Either
All
way
day.
it go. So watch this. Isaiah 45 and verse 19. What do it say?
I have not spoken in secret
Mhm.
in a dark place of the earth.
He ain't standing in no corner speaking in secret. Everybody, for the most part, know about God.
Mhm.
What else it say?
I said not unto the seed of Jacob, seek ye me in vain.
He ain't telling us to seek him for no reason. It's a reason for us seeking him.
Mhm.
What else he say?
I, the Lord, speak righteousness.
And what else did he do?
I declare things that are right.
He telling us things that's right.
Mhm.
The world ain't doing this. So this is another way that you know that man ain't wrote this Bible.
Right. That is why he's deserving to be reverenced. Because he's
Exactly.
saying, when I instruct you to do something, it's right.
It's right.
Right.
You know what
It's
I'm saying? It's right. And he declared things that are right. He speaks
Exactly.
righteousness. Go
Exactly. Let's go one more place on this subject then. Proverbs 2.
ahead. Mhm.
Proverbs 2. Let's match this precept up because that's how we get understanding. Here a little and there a little.
Yes,
All
sir.
Right,
Through
line
the
upon
spirit. So
line.
right, exactly. Proverbs 2. And let's take a look at verse 6. Let's see what's coming out of the mouth of the Lord. Because for the most part, this is why people going by those Tony Evans books, these other books that's giving out knowledge. Right. TD Jakes. Because they want knowledge. Right?
Uh-huh.
So let's take a look at this. What is coming out of God's mouth?
Go ahead.
For the Lord giveth wisdom.
He giving wisdom and it's free.
Uh-huh.
You ain't got to pay for it.
Mhm.
What else he say?
Out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding.
So everything he's speaking is knowledge and understanding. And ain't no other nation on the planet got laws like this.
At all.
Mhm.
Nobody. What else he say?
He layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous.
For the righteous.
Oh,
What else?
those it
Uh-huh.
says sound
Yeah,
wisdom.
sound wisdom. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Right.
Exactly. What else did he say?
Straight dagger. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly.
Oh, so he's a defense when you walking uprightly.
Mhm.
Because sin is a reproach to any nation.
Mhm.
You
Exactly.
don't fall if you sinning against him.
Right. Go
So
ahead.
that's what it is, man. That's why we listen to this. And he said we was created in his image.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
So therefore, we got to be a representative of him on the earth
Yes, sir.
Right.
because
yes,
we
sir.
part of the body. He not here with us, physically. He left us his word.
Mhm.
We got to apply this.
Yes, sir.
So this is what that is. That's all I had on that though.
I appreciate you
That
letting
was
us
more
eat
than
with
enough,
you,
brother.
man.
Oh,
That was more than enough.
Now watch
Real talk.
this, all right? Because I'm gonna land back over him. He got knowledge and things like that, right? Let's go see some of
Let's
the
get
knowledge
it.
he's telling us, right?
Mhm.
Let's go to Isaiah 46. Some of the wisdom that he's telling us. Isaiah 46. Isaiah 46. and verse 8. Isaiah 46 and verse 8.
Mhm.
Whenever you get there, go ahead and read.
Remember this. Remember this,
Mhm.
and show yourselves men.
Uh-huh.
Bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors.
Right, because you're merely men. You're not
Mhm.
perfect. You have faults. You've sinned, right? You've fallen short of the glory of God, right? And he said, "Oh, ye transgressors," right?
Yes, sir.
So now, once again, land backing off what I originally started off with in Isaiah 1. First, he said, "Come wash you, make you clean, and put away the evil of your doings." He's saying the same thing here. But then he's giving you a criteria on why I'm able to say this and it's justified, right? Go ahead.
Remember the former things of old,
Uh-huh.
for I am God, and there is none else.
Go ahead.
I am God, and there is none like me.
Don't forget, in the past, I didn't did this stuff.
Right.
So what is he saying? Go ahead.
Declaring the end from the beginning,
Uh-huh.
and from ancient times the things that are not yet done.
Go ahead.
Saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure.
All right, so now watch this, yo. Let us go to the previous chapter. Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45. Let's see where it is. Isaiah 44. Isaiah 44, I'm sorry. Isaiah 44 and verse 23. Isaiah 44 and verse 23. Now remember, he's talking to Judah, right? So we got evidence that proves that Judah was an actual nation, right? We got evidence from other nations that Judah was an actual nation, right? We got primary eyewitness accounts that Judah was an actual nation. But Judah is still standing at this time when this prophecy was coming. This prophecy was foretold, right? Let's see what he said. Go ahead.
Sing, O ye heavens, for the Lord hath done it. Shout, ye lower parts of the earth.
Uh-huh.
Break forth into singing, ye mountains, O forest,
Go ahead.
and every tree therein. For the Lord hath redeemed Jacob and glorified himself in Israel.
Right. That's why y'all should be singing, because I have redeemed y'all. I've come and saved y'all, right? And then watch this, right? He's still telling these people, because he said in verse 1, like, your country gonna be desolate and strangers gonna take over your country. So he already told you the consequence and what the destruction is gonna happen, but I already got a plan for salvation for you, right? And this is what this is going to show. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things.
Go ahead.
That stretcheth forth the heavens alone.
Uh-huh.
That spreadeth abroad the earth by myself.
Right. So nobody's finna make an exaggeration about this. Like, I literally did this, right? And so I've proclaimed these things, right? And so even if I didn't see him do it, I got enough evidence already to believe, well, he said it. See, he's an authority. I'm not being fallacious by appealing to authority. I just believe he's the expert because he's presented all this evidence. I see the evidence he's presented, and so I'm going to take heed, right? So he didn't spread. He said that he stretched forth the heavens alone, and that spread abroad the earth by myself. I don't see none of these atheists proving who stretched this earth, who made the Big Bang Theory.
Right,
So
right,
you
right.
saying something that came from nothing. You would rather believe something came from nothing than believe that somebody created something.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that again.
Making it make sense,
right?
bro.
You gonna believe that something came from nothing rather than to believe that someone created something.
What type
Right.
of argument would that be called?
I don't know, because that's just,
I mean, we know obviously it's fallacy, but
that's
What type
a
of fallacy?
well, that's to me that is a hasty generalization because you don't have enough sufficient evidence to say that.
right.
That is a hasty generalization of Big Bang Theory, because how do they know they
Oh,
wasn't there?
my fault.
Right.
There you go. Say right.
The Big Bang Theory, it was a hasty generalization because how do they know they wasn't there?
Right, of course, right.
The-
All right, so now we understand that we weren't there to see any of this, but we got documentation, just like they have documentation, history books, this, that, and third. Why can't I look at this the same way? Go ahead.
25.
Uh-huh.
That frustrateth the tokens of the liars, and make of diviners mad,
Uh-huh.
and turneth wise men backward,
Uh-huh.
and make of their knowledge foolish.
Right. So that's starting to have, you're going to really see that starting to happen in these last days because all this evidence is going to shut everybody down. Right. Go ahead.
That confirmeth the word of his servant, and performeth the counsel of his messengers, that saith to Jerusalem, thou shalt be inhabited, and to the cities of Judah ye shall be built, and I will raise up the decayed places thereof.
Wait a minute though, but we already standing.
Mm-hmm.
We still standing already. Nothing has happened, right? Because Judah didn't get taken down until Babylon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when Jeremiah comes in. So I can go to Jeremiah 52 and show you when Judah got taken down. But he's telling Judah here, man, your place is going to be rebuilt. They ain't knocked down yet. What is you talking about, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
That confirmeth the word of his
Verse
my bad,
27.
27. That saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up thy rivers.
Uh-huh.
That saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd,
Uh-huh.
and shall perform all my pleasure.
Uh-huh.
Even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple thy foundation shall be laid.
Once again, the temple is still up. The actual country is still in motion, right? And Cyrus ain't even born yet.
Wow.
Right? So that's something we got to understand, right? Then you actually have Cyrus, who's a real historical figure, left something that's called the Cyrus cylinder that showed that he did this and made this proclamation after this happened. That's evidence.
Dope.
Mhm.
All right, that's enough on my end. Like I ain't gonna give y'all too much.
All praise. But we did start with Isaiah 1:16, talking about wash you, make me clean, put away
Yeah.
evil. So let's just bring it all home and give them some instructions real quick on how to do that. Let's go to Psalm 119 real quick.
All right, yep.
Psalm 119.
Good man, good man. Go ahead.
Y'all read it.
You got it, Ben?
Yes,
All right.
sir.
You go start at verse 1. We're gonna read 1 through 8. Sure.
Okay, Psalms 19.
119.
119. Psalms 119, 1 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed are the undefiled in the way,
Mm-hmm.
who walk in the law of the Lord.
Go ahead.
Walk in the law of the Lord.
Blessed are they that keep his testimonies
Mm-hmm.
and that seek him with a whole heart.
Mm-hmm.
They also do no iniquity.
Amen.
They walk in his ways.
Mm-hmm.
Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently.
Diligently.
Mhm.
Oh, that my ways were directed to keep thy status.
Come on.
Statutes.
I'm sorry, thy statutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all thy commandments.
Mhm.
I will praise thee with uprightness of heart when I shall have learned thy righteous judgments. I will keep thy statutes, for forsake me not utterly.
Now, I'm sorry. Read verse 9.
Wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his way,
Uh-huh.
by taking heed thereto according to thy word.
Uh-huh.
Amen. We're gonna leave it at that. All praise.
All
All
praises, all
praises to the Most
praises.
High.
Yes, sir.
Once again, this was Iron Sharpens Iron. I thank everybody that's in the audience, everybody that's tuning in. We are going to continue part 2 to this next week. Once again, we're going to deal with emotional dumping, venting, and what is an apology. I hope y'all ready for all of this. This good old wisdom that the Lord has given us.
Yes, sir.
All right, shalom, everybody. Peace.
Peace and blessings.
Peace.